What's up, guys? This podcast is sponsored by Yak Attack. It's yakattack.us. What Yak Attack is the leader in the kayak fishing industry who specializes in kayak fishing rigging solutions. As kayak anglers themselves, they are tightly integrated in the sport of kayak fishing and are acutely aware of what the sport needs. It all starts with the gear track and or the mighty mount. And the gear track comes in all different sizes and colors, and the screwball that attaches to it has everything that attaches to that. So you have this one piece that goes on your boat, and you have a variety of products and accessories that you can attach to it. And a variety of rod holders and camera mounts and still cameras for your camera mounts for your still cameras and your GoPros. Your light poles with the day flags that folds into the flag. Your fish finder mounts and the black pack crate system. All of Yak Attack's products are made in the USA. A few years ago, Yak Attack set the gold standard with kayak visibility with the VisiCarbon Pro. Fast forward to today, and it remains the most dependable light flag combo in the industry. The 48-inch deployed height gets the flag and the light up where it can be seen, and the 14-inch collapse length allows it to be stowed away easily when it's not in use. The high visibility flag doubles as a pouch. No, I just said that? Nah. Expected lamp life of 10,000 plus hours of the ultra bright high efficiency LEDs and at least 100 hours with the 3 AA batteries that are included. The carbon fiber mass is strong and lightweight, and the narrow profile offers low wind drag. The soft foam keeps it afloat when it goes into the water, if it goes into the water, and it is also adapted to fit most rod holders. Available in an array of mounting options that fits most boats and popular mounts. Don't compromise with safety. Depends on what tens of thousands of other paddlers trust. There is only one VisiCarbon Pro. Yeah, VisiCarbon Pro from Yak Attack. yakattack.us. My podcast is also sponsored by my DVDs at kayakkevin.com. The Kayak Fishing the Chesapeake Bay series and the Bay Tour DVD. The fishing DVDs are broken up into a trilogy. Number 1 is an intro into our fishery, where it has a full year's worth of footage from most of the larger fish in the lower Chesapeake Bay that we target. The instructional sequels are broken up into 2 parts, the warm water and the cold water species. Number 2 is the warm water species with detailed instruction on the rigs and the fishery itself, spanning from the red drum at the shoal, the summer structure species at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel, flounder, and sight casting the red drum and striper. Number 3 is the cold water species, detailing with the detailed instruction on the winter targets, and that is tautog and the eastern shore striper fishery. The Chesapeake Bay Tour DVD is a 6-week, 600-mile tour I did in 2010 around the Chesapeake Bay. This is filmed in a kind of a Survivor Man style, showing everything I look for when I'm on a long-distance tour. All of these DVDs are available at kayakkevin.com, and check out Yak Attack at yakattack.us. All right, this is podcast number 51. It is April 17th, 2015, and we got Gil Elhart from Breathe Yoga Center here in Norfolk. It's breatheyoga.com. Oh no, breathenorfolk.com with the E. BREATHE Norfolk.com. And tonight's a special one because I've always wanted to do, first, I guess actually what I'm thinking I'm going to do is actually, because if we have new viewers from the yoga side, they've never seen the show before. So this show, if you're not a viewer of this show, this is usually a kayak fishing centralized podcast. We usually have Lee in here, who's my fishing partner, and we just usually talk. It's wide open format. There's no commercials. There's a commercial at the front of it, and there's no commercials in the middle of it, so we don't have to take a breaks. And it's also uncensored, so we cuss. I'll cuss.
When other people start cussing, then sometimes I start cussing too.
Cool. And that's the way it is. It's an open format, open conversation format. So it's not like a radio show in a sense, but it's kind of like that.
Okay, see, I was under the impression this was a radio show, so I didn't wear pants.
But But I've always, the thing with podcasts is being general. I mean, me and one of my fishing buddies were both former Marines, and we went off on a tangent one day about Marine Corps and boot camp, and we just talked about boot camp for almost an hour.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where this is going to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try to keep it on yoga, but and stuff coming off of that, because it's been such a huge part of my life for the last couple of years. It's actually really changed my life, and that's if you see me if you're a friend, maybe friends with me on Facebook, and you've seen the posts I do all the time. I'm really passionate about it, and really 100% about it. And it's helped me, and when I post about it, I'm trying to help other people with it also. And it's become that as I'm at these places and doing, of course I'm in kayak fishing things, and hell, even on the water the other day, a guy, I was fishing with him, and he came up to me and was like, as we're fishing, we're just talking about fishing, and he goes, all right, so what about yoga? So I'm talking about yoga now, so it's
starting to take over your life.
Well, it's not that, but people are interested in it enough where, and that's my goal is, kind of thing where I feel like if everybody had a yoga practice, I think the world would be a lot better place. Everybody would be a lot cooler with each other, and people wouldn't be so quick to jump to here when you got a whole shit ton of steps to get before you get here in a situation, right?
Yep, it's mindfulness.
And that would, I think that's my thing, is why I post about it. I mean, I don't post about it to brag. I post about it to really kind of inform. And so it's kind of the same way I started doing about kayak fishing. So
exactly, I feel you.
And I got into yoga. I'm in my fourth year now. So I'm going back to 10 years ago in my Florida tour, where I'm paddling 1,800 miles. I started in Pensacola, and I got dropped off in Pensacola, and it took me 4.5 months to go around Florida and back up to here. 1,800 miles I was on for 4.5 months, all by myself. About 5 weeks in, I started getting a knot in my back, right? Wasn't a big deal. I pushed all the way through. 3 years later, it's the knot has turned into a twisted muscle, completely cut off the nerve to my skin, where I could stick a knife in my back and I couldn't feel the knife point. I could feel the pressure around it. So it completely cut off my skin, nerves. It was so bad, it was debilitating, where I had to lay down to get relief. Where I was getting in trouble at work because I was laying down. Were you sleeping? No, just trying to fucking breathe, because this thing is constricting my breath. It's hurting so bad. So that's how the level it got to. And finally, I went to a chiropractor, and they went to this thing, and they said they were going to adjust your neck, right? The whole theory was they're going to adjust your neck and not adjust the rest of your body. Right? So I sit through this fucking class, and it's the whole thing. I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, the whole time I'm like, I'm still not. What I wanted to do was learn how to fix this thing myself, and not keep having to go back to a chiropractor. That was my whole goal. I wanted, because I had a tour coming up. I was going to do that stuff. So he's clicking on he's got me on this thing. He's pushing on my neck, and he's doing this with his hands. Mm-hmm. And he says afterwards, and then he stops, and he's okay, down, get up, and he goes, okay, what was that noise? He goes, that was your neck adjusting, and when it stops is when I stop. I said, thank you, and I walked out. That was just it. I was done. So then I went to a physical therapist. The doctor looks at my back. Oh yeah, bam, bam, bam. Shoots me up, takes me up, kicks me upstairs to the physical therapist, and she massages it out and works it out. Gives me some relief finally after 3 years. And so when I'm talking to her, I'm going, okay, how can I fix this myself? I need to know when this happens, how to fix myself on the spot, because I might be on the water, thousands of miles away from here, on tour, and I just need to know how to fix it. And what she taught me, now I understand, is mountain pose. Shoulder blades together, squeeze them, and she goes, do this. Shoulders back, squeeze your shoulder blades together, and hold that for 10 seconds at a time. You're at the grocery store line, you're in the line of the bank, you're at work, we drive and do it. And that, through therapy and through her, working it out, the muscle, that cured me. I was cured. And I asked her, okay, what else can I do? She goes, go to yoga. This is 3 years before I started practicing. All right, so this is already, boom, it's there, right? So
seed has been planted.
Yeah, seed's completely been planted, rolling around my head, and I'm late 30s now, and my body's starting to do, I'm gaining weight. Just my body's starting to hurt. I've got injuries. I've got ankle and knee rolling up from snowboarding and skateboarding. I'm getting injuries up and down. So all that stuff was starting to happen, and all that stuff was starting to be painful, and then I dated a girl that had a heavy yoga practice. I mean, she was in, and we only dated for a short period of time, but she was like, I was like, well, do you think I can you go, I was always intimidated. It's the same thing I hear from everybody else. You think I can do it? I'm not flexible. I was kind of flexible. I've always had a stretching routine. Like no matter what, I've always had a stretching routine. Been athletic, kayak and shit. I need a stretching routine. I always had one. So I asked her, and she goes, "Yeah, just go. You need to go." And so at the end of that year, we only did it for a little while. But at the end, when I get done with my second fishing DVD, I was like, when I get done with this, I'm going to a yoga class. I was like, okay, I'm getting this done. Now I'm free from this work, and now I'm gonna do this. And I went to a gym because I didn't want to go to the studio because I was intimidated, and I've heard this plenty of times before from everybody else. I don't want to go to. I just want, So I found
I want to be in the back row and blend in. I don't want anybody to know I'm there.
Yes, that's the way it was because I just was scared. I was scared. I didn't know anybody besides that girl I dated, and I wasn't dating her anymore. I didn't know anybody who practiced yoga at all, and so I went. And my goal was physical health. I wanted to get all the pains out, and I've got a little bit of scoliosis. My back's all kind of crooked. I just wanted to make sure everything was healthy and stretched out more than I do my usual stretches. I wanted strengthening too, because I researched it online, of course, like everybody does, and I saw what the gist of it. Just the gist of holding. And I saw the benefits in the physical aspects of it with the strength holding, even holding your own body up is strengthening. So I saw that. I said, okay, that's what I want to do. And I wasn't of course not too interested in the spiritual side at that point, right? It was just it was there. But so I go to the gym right here on Grant Ward's Corner. There's a little gym there, and Kim Seitz was teaching there, and she was my first teacher. And the first class was full on everything. Had chants, had the ohms, had everything that I've go to class now and do. But it was a beginner's class and was slow and all that stuff. But immediately I was like, I'm good with all that. I'm good with the chant because when I was 20, I really dove into religions and was experimenting and searching for just searching to see what was happening. And so I did a sweat lodge when I was 20. It was so I was. I was looking for things, I was checking things out. And so that openness was already there, right? So 20 years later, when that stuff starts coming at me in this yoga class, I got this, I know where all this is at, this is good. Okay, so that didn't freak me out at all, right? But, so I kept going there for about 3 months. And it took me about 3 months to get the breathing, right? Because you've never breathed before, it's really yoga practice after. Right?
It's true. That's the hardest part. You'd think that'd be the easiest part. No. But it's the hardest part.
It was controlling of that breath during these things that you want to... I was double breathing everything. But controlling that it took me 3 months just to get a grip on that. And that's once I got that, then I started branching out to the other studios around here. I started going to studios, and that was a big jump for me. Mm-hmm. Started out at Bamboo, and that's where I met you and your wife Megan. Mm-hmm. And immediately your guys' practice was like right there. I was like, I loved the way Megan explained stuff and from foot to the tip of your toe, she would explain every point that stretch out and this and then your creativity in your classes and how it just immediately was like boom. I love these guys, and then you guys were gonna start opening. You got settled in the area because you're from. You're from Colorado.
Well, I'm originally from North Carolina, but I moved from Colorado. Colorado feels like my home. That's where my wife and I met. We lived out in Boulder, Colorado for 5 years, and then we relocated here.
And she's from...
She's kind of all over, but let's say South Carolina, because she was in Charleston for 6 years before she moved out to Colorado, where we met.
Yeah. Okay, so So you guys are East Coasters.
Yeah.
But you met in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys were teaching here and you got settled here and found a place and opened up. And
that's right.
And for me it was awesome because it was right down, basically 7 miles from my house. That's what I was, as soon as you said where it was like, damn, that's a good spot, man. I was like, that's a good spot. For me it's great. For you guys it's excellent too.
Yeah.
It's location on any business is prime.
It's key.
Yeah,
it's key.
And you guys got a great building. Great spot, right where it's right. If you're here in Norfolk or here in the Tidewater area, it's the south foot of the Grammy Street Bridge.
Yep.
It's right there. Is what.
If you drop a pin in Norfolk, it is like almost right smack dab in the middle of the city.
Oh no, yeah.
But I guess we're kind of in that midtown, not too far from downtown.
Yeah.
But not too far from Ocean View.
Yep. Yeah. And also not just off the side of Ganton a little bit, just around the right there. It's a prime spot. So you guys opened there, and now it's been 3 years since you've been there.
That's right. We just celebrated our 3-year anniversary, and actually yesterday was 3-year anniversary of The first class, yeah.
Yeah, I saw the picture up on it was Facebook. Yeah, I was like, oh yeah, it was awesome. And I tell you, man, I wrote you. I went to one of your classes on Wednesday, just to catch up with you. Usually I go to Megan's class; she teaches the level 2 classes. But I was wanted. Lately, you've been teaching, you've been telling the stories, and I've been loving the stories when you tell them. And then you did the chant that blew me and Vanessa away. I texted her, "Were you expecting that?" You know, I texted her on Facebook, "Were you expecting that?" I messaged her, and she was like, "No." I said, "Yeah, that was something else." So that was really cool. Anyway,
I can tell some stories tonight if you guys would like.
So I went to your class, and man, it's packed. It's packed with every type of body,
every walk of life,
age, dude. You got 7-year-olds to a 20-year-old, and dudes. There's a dude right next to me, and a yogi, high level yogi
teacher,
right next,
yeah.
yogi teacher right next to me. It was incredible, and what I'm really getting, what I'm loving now is body sizes. I mean, everybody's getting in there, and that's the issue is people. Oh, I'm too fat. Well, you get in there and you start practicing, and your
results will come.
Yeah, and you find it's not that bad because, I mean, it's awesome. It was awesome. It was really incredible. That blew me away along with the whole class, and yeah, I even texted you. I was like, dude, the amount of people that are in these classes. And when you started, it was, of course, you had at the beginning, you have that little peak because it's new, and then it trickles down, and then it starts building from there.
That's very true.
Yeah, and it was really cool to see that, being coming to you guys for 3 years now, and be able to see that growth. It's been incredible.
Yeah.
But so most people, I think, get into it the same way I do.
Most.
Right? Most.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For physical benefits, maybe wanting to recover from an injury,
Yep.
like yourself, just seeking balance in their life in general. But yeah, mostly, most people are approaching it from that physical angle, which is perfectly fine. Like yoga, as it's evolved over time, has said, okay, the yoga practice itself, yoga means union, and it means to come together and make whole. And so that's what it's doing in our lives. It's bringing together our awareness, our mindfulness was the term I used earlier, and it's bringing into our activity. And so here we are, yoga has evolved over 5,000 years approximately, and it's saying, okay, yoga, I can evolve, I can adapt, and I can meet the needs of this age, this era, what people need. What people need is some movement in their body, so they're not just stagnant all day, because we work for long periods of time, in this culture in particular, we work for long periods of time.
We sit in chairs.
Sit in chairs, exactly. And so people need to move. They need to move their spine, they need to breathe and coordinate the breath with the movement, and yoga encapsulates that.
Yeah.
And then you can branch off and it can expand from there.
And it's also when I was getting into it, because of my injuries, I looked at it as a low impact exercise.
Absolutely.
Right? And that was key for me too, because I hated my ankles. I didn't want to run. I've lifted before, and I didn't. You can get too pushy on that, and you don't also stretch out on that. And at first, when I started practicing, at the end of the practice, I was feeling like I had just worked out, but also stretched out. Right, because you also at the end of every practice you have a savasana. You have a relaxation period, which you don't do when you're working out, and it's the most key thing of the yoga practice is to bring it all down, and that's where you kind of get a real good benefit. But that's probably jumping ahead a little bit. But yeah, and it's the low impact thing, and that's what I also along with the physical strengthening of it.
Absolutely, a lot of people don't know, or they just might think yoga is stretching, and that's one component. When I'm leading my foundations or my introduction to yoga classes, I'm like, okay, here's everything that yoga does, and this is going to be a quick snapshot of everything that yoga does. Yoga is strengthening, yoga is balancing, yoga is stretching, yoga is also meditative, yoga is relaxation, as you were just talking about. And yoga is also dynamic and learning to play with your edges, learning to expand those edges, and learning to soften them at the same time too. So you're balancing all this, as you're doing it. And it doesn't mean that you have to be consciously doing that.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Is all that you're saying is not really a conscious thing. Is when you're just practicing, you're going through the movements. These movements are 5,000 years old. I mean, these are shapes.
Some of them.
Right.
Some of them are very modern adaptations,
yes.
and even I sometimes get innovative with it.
Yeah. You know, that's one thing that you guys blow me away every time. Like I told you, I get nervous when I go to Megan's class because I don't know what the hell's going to happen. You know, I know most classes I know the basic routine. I make whatever they're going to focus on is going to be something different. But Megan's is like almost scary. It's
we like to keep you on your toes, so you never know what's coming, and that way you can't just go through the motions.
Keep it back on my heels. That's what. But that's the thing is all that comes with it. It's not you're gonna do this and this. It's you're just gonna do this thing and all this is all in it. And that's what as soon as I was practicing, I was like, wow, this is so much more than just a stretching. It's so much more than it's you know. And I realized that right off the bat. But it's still as it went. It crept and got bigger and bigger and bigger, and that's why I kept going and going and going. I mean, it went from 1 day a week to on my winters, and then it started as the winters coming. I was jumping into practices hard, and that was my winter was my what I called my inside time, right?
Yeah.
And then because it's like outside time.
Yoga season.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying I'll be practicing at least once a week. Intentional once a week. I get into a studio during fishing season because I can go after work one of these days and stuff like that. But yeah, it's focused during the wintertime. But it's just going once a week is important. It's just making it a routine because when I tell people that go, I said go to beginner's class and go every week. Go once a week and go.
That's good advice.
Just to keep it consistent.
You want the consistency. If you anything in life.
Yeah.
If you want benefit from it, then you need consistency. Things don't work when, if we're just talking about workout or lifting weights, it doesn't work very good if you do it once and 3 weeks later you do it again.
Yep.
You're like, well, I haven't done it in 3 weeks, so let me do 3 hours worth of it. That's not as valuable as doing it regularly once a week or, even most valuable once you can get it in 2 times a week.
Yes.
But start where you can. And once a week is a great way to just start to get it into your life a little bit and get the benefits of it.
And then when I went to like the winter times, I was doing twice, and then 3 times a week was the maximum I could do at my level because it would try to do 4 and it would kill me. And that's the thing is you don't want to go too hard in it because then I forgot the term for it, but it's the diminishing returns, right? I think it is. It's how much effort you put into stuff. If you put too much, you start getting less back. In any kind of physical, sport or activity like that, but it's twice a week if you can really start getting twice a week, that's good because and then it's amazing if you have that consistent practice, you'll see the progressions.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Little progressions, all of a sudden, oh wow, now I can see this part of the roof. I can get here now and even just, I remember that, and you remember, I remember them. Almost remember every breakthrough, and then when I did this yoga, the teacher thanks. It's all the teachers out there I remember in their class having a breakthrough is because they told me, don't look here, look there, or lift out of here, or, and it was a huge breakthrough for
it's
whatever
exciting.
practice.
It's exciting to see yourself progress in it, for example, standing on your hands, which that's going to be down the road.
Yeah.
But not just handstand, but what's called crane pose, balancing on your hands,
yep.
lifting your feet up towards your backside. A pose like that and being able to, when you first try, you think, no way, there's no way, it's not possible, I can never do that, you know what I mean? But then you see someone, you're like, okay, well, I guess it is possible, but possible for them. But then you just keep trying, and you have to be willing to fall. Think about, we use this metaphor all the time. When you're learning to walk as a young infant, you're going to have some falls,
mm-hmm.
But ultimately you keep at it, and hey, we're most all of us walking today,
And what's great about the yoga classes is that when they say there's no judgment in the yoga class, there's truly no judgment in the yoga class. You're going to fall, it's cool. Because it's just a way it's a practice.
Yeah, you're gonna fall. You're gonna fart. It's okay.
Yeah, people ask me about that. I say it happens.
It does.
I luckily haven't done it because it would be fucked up if I did that in the yoga class because mine are stinking. It would be terrible.
Sorry, I had to go.
Yeah, no, but it does happen. It's a trip.
People need to know the truth.
Sometimes my foot even squeaks, and I'm like, no, I'm thinking. I hope they don't think that was a fart. It wasn't.
I know. I'm always nervous. Like when there's someone farts around me or something, I'm like, that was not me. I almost want to announce it. That was not me.
But everybody knows it happens. Nobody gets offended by it. It's just, it happens. Nobody's trying to fart in there. It's not like the Jackass skit where he goes and farts in the yoga class, which is hilarious, but it's not, it's so there's no judgment in it. There's no matter what level you are, wherever you are in your yoga practice, it's your yoga practice. That's the thing that is I was like, this is my yoga practice. You're part of my yoga practice. I'm not going to your yoga practice. You're part of my yoga practice.
The experience is cool because people are coming together, and it is this collaborative vibe, and so everyone's having a similar-ish experience. They could be having very different experiences, but they're all together, and you're feeding off of that energy of the group.
And dude, that is why I say to go to a studio, because if you practice at home, that's cool. But one, you're probably not doing the poses right. You're probably not,
particularly when you're first learning. Your alignment is going to be.
As soon as I went to that first class, I was like, oh, I'm glad I did this, because I was going to end up doing something wrong with these tapes or the videos.
Absolutely, certified teacher. They're going to be looking out and observing bodies and making adjustments, either verbally or physically, to help you.
And some studios don't adjust, but around here they do, and it's awesome. And because, you just going like this, that right alone, that could open up steps to part of that pose that opens everything up. And that's how simple adjustments are. It's not like you're grabbing and yanking like a back doctor or whatever. You're just making subtle, and if what I do, just a tip, if anytime the teacher says anything, even if I think I'm good, I make sure and readjust.
Exactly.
You open your chest more. If I'm like this, I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna make sure I'm there. Just to make sure.
There's always room to grow.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna speak to two things. Number one, the physical, which is where we're approaching again from. I wouldn't mind a little bit more relaxation in my shoulders, or I wouldn't mind a little bit more recovery and balance because I have this injury over here, whatever the case, or I want to even out my body because my right side is dominant. All these things. We're approaching from that physical angle, most of us, like you said. So I'm going to speak to that here. And so tension, sometimes our tension is addictive, or we've almost trained our body into being tense, whether that's literally from like tensile strength building exercises, in any kind of repetitive, whether it's a kayak stroke or a muscle, a flexion of some sort. That's going to build tension, and tension is not all bad because we need some, we want our bodies not to just be pudge-like, but sometimes it can get addictive, and sometimes it can come more from just like stress of our job, stress of being in traffic, or even a traumatic experience of like, I was in a car accident and it caused my shoulder to do this, and now I hold this tension here, and it's almost like I'm holding it symbolically. So now I'm speaking about that energetic, like now energetically, I have like some fear that's like stuck right here.
You go to sleep with it like that, and you go through your day when you're just eating and you're tense right here.
Exactly. It becomes addictive, and it becomes unconscious that you're holding it, and then you're in a pose and you're holding that tension. The yoga teacher can see it, a skilled yoga teacher can see it, and they can address it, and they can soften that tension, and with that tension you're also releasing some of that fear, potentially some of that trauma. So it works past that physical layer. You might only be interested in that physical layer, and that's fine.
That's a great example of how just the physical will help you mentally. And that's what was blown. I knew when I was in there what was happening. I knew there was some spirituality in there, but as it got further, it became woven in with the practice that it was just there. It was there to be seen if I wanted to see it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And right there, it just, because people have problems sleeping. It's like, I don't have problems sleeping. I wear the fuck out of myself every day, and I go to sleep easy. Boom. I can lay down right here and go to sleep on the floor. I mean, it's that because I know how to relax. I know how, if I have tension, I know how to adjust it. Okay, work on this, breathe into it, which is, when I first heard breathe into a part of my body, I was like, wow, I don't know what the fuck that is talking about, but now I can breathe into my foot. And it's a crazy, almost abstract, but not really.
It's about your awareness and where you're channeling.
Yeah. I mean, breathe in the lower part of the back.
And that does, when you first hear that and you first try and experience that, you might not get it, and that's fine. But the idea is just you're gradually sending more and more awareness into parts of your body that you might not communicate with. There might be parts of your body that you haven't communicated with for a long time, and they're neglected, and they need a little love. They need a little bit of your attention and your awareness to come back into balance.
And that's what a physical practice is, that because you're hitting all the spots, you're working on, it's head to toe. It's head to toe it's the strength, stretch, and the activity. I mean, I've got muscles now that I didn't have when I was 30 because I neglected those muscles, like especially leg muscles. I got leg injuries, so I avoided them, and it caused more injury. You know, it caused more issues. So now I've got stuff happening and, you know, building on places that have not been focused on for 20 years. You know, since I was hurt 20 years ago with my ankle, that was like one of my first things that sent off everything wrong.
Yeah, that's right. That's all it takes is one spot, and then you start to compensate with it on in another way, in another part of your body, and then you're developing in an imbalanced way, or you're compensating. So
it's in with that through the practice and through those. It's this unconscious releasing of all that. All of that stuff is unconsciously released.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's both that angle of it, and there is consciousness to where you're going about it. You know, so you can consciously, as you were talking about, breathe down through the inseam of your legs, for example. And so this is just so valuable to be able to learn to come back into your body. I mean, we work with tons of people, both in group setting and in one-on-one private session setting, that have literally lost communication with their body. They have been so disconnected. They've let their careers run their lives, and maybe their family run their lives.
And that almost sounds like abstract to somebody if you don't. I mean, for real, you can be disconnected from. I mean, how many times have people have said, "Oh, I forgot to eat breakfast today"? Well, you're disconnected. Your body is screaming at you to eat breakfast, and you didn't listen.
You overrode that feedback.
Exactly.
It's the same thing with anybody suffering from an addiction to nicotine and cigarette smoking. There was a feedback initially, get that toxin out, that we overrode.
Yes.
We overrode that feedback. And so it can be the same thing with any kind of eating disorder. You know, yes, your body was screaming at you to eat, but you overrode it, and you've been able to like disconnect that link of communication. And it's now we're relinking some communication that has been disconnected for a long time.
Yeah.
For sure. So that's a big part of it, and it can just be so helpful, so valuable for anyone.
And that right there starts to go into the mental well-being of it, because through doing that, you're already helping your mental capacity, your mental happiness, your mental well-being, because you're starting to wake stuff up and starting to give focus to stuff that has been dying. And now you're waking it up, and it wants to be woken up, man. Our bodies want to be used and worked, and I mean, we're built for it. I mean, we're built. Look at anybody who hasn't had physical activity in 20 years. Their body deteriorates and gets sick and falls apart. Look at somebody who's had a healthy, hard-working life. Yeah, they might look older, but they are strong, and they have a pep in their step. I mean, I know
posture.
It's yes, a posture to them. Oh god damn, posture, man.
How many
posture
times?
in kayaks, y'all. Holy shit! Anytime I see somebody like that, it just reminds me to sit up. I mean, we remind each other. You're leaning way forward, man. Because we're in a kayak, we're doing this. You're going forward, you're pushing forward, you're pulling like this, and you end up like this. You end up with your neck forward, and I see it so much, and you have a life jacket on, or you're leaning forward too far back. You're putting all this crazy pressure on your lower back, or you're not using your legs. I mean, there's posture.
Yeah, posture is huge, and you start to learn good posture. Mountain pose. You talked about mountain pose. So we start from the ground up, and we learn how to ground equally through the feet, because it's a building, okay? And if you build the building on a poor foundation, then it's gonna be wonky. It's gonna be wacky. So we start from the feet in a standing pose, like mountain pose.
And I'm saying, focus. I mean, he's saying, okay, starting on the ground. He's not saying just stand there. He's saying, lift each toe and put it down. Feel each corner of your foot down. Really awareness on a very small level that most people don't even think about. Your toes. I mean, you pick up your toe, put it down, and feeling what that is, and there you go. That's part of the pose. I mean, you're starting there.
Yeah, grounding down with a lot of focus and articulating around the ball of the foot. So, here in the palm of your hand, you got a lift at the center of the palm. The foot is similar, has that lift on the inner arch. There's even a little subtle lift on the outer arch. and slightly across what we call a transverse arch. So you want to ground down into big toe mound, pinky toe mound, inner heel and outer heel, and you do that on both feet. And then that brings your pelvis into symmetry and helps you stack your hips over your ankles. The knees can be a little bit bent, particularly if you're tighter in the hamstrings, but the knees are not going to be flared out or flared in, because now we're going to tone the inner thighs, we're going to engage the muscles, we're going to hug the muscles towards the bone without gripping or getting tense, and then that elevates the knees and it strengthens these subtle muscles, some of the ones you might have been talking about earlier that you had forgotten or neglected or whatever. Inner thigh muscles, those are big. I see it with beginners all the time. They have no idea inner thigh muscles, they're so weak, and that puts strain on the low back. So when we strengthen those inner thigh muscles, and then we're starting to tone into the core. And the core is not just navel center, but it's around and radiating down the fronts of the thighs and then up. And so now we're toning in, and we're getting a little bit more focused on hugging in and finding more support now for the spinal column. And then the spine stacks, but it's not just straight up, because we have those curves through the spine. But then the shoulders drop back, as you're talking about. Shoulders open a little bit, and the chest widens, and everything starts to feel expansive. It starts to feel strong, supported, really stable, and then it feels expansive and wide across your upper back and across your chest. And then you have this capacity to breathe into that posture. You've just developed good posture, healthy alignment that you can use in any physical activity.
Right from
as you talked about.
Place.
And you can use it when you're in the line at the grocery store. You can use it in the line when you're at the bank. That you've already alluded to the fact that now you're a little bit more aware of bodies. As a yoga teacher, that's my thing. Is I observe bodies all day long, and I see them out in the world. Mm-hmm. And just a moment ago, I was thinking about, we were talking about hunching forward, and that's really the biggest problem in our culture.
See it.
And if I see, sometimes I see elderly people who, God bless them, they got a huge, it's called kyphosis, and they've got a hump coming back here. Yep. And it's so bad. And if they just came into good alignment and toned the low belly and firmed the thigh muscles back, consistently as they were, aging, then they wouldn't have that hunched, rounded forward feeling. Of course, sitting down, as you talked about, if you're sitting for long periods of time, come off the back of the chair like I just did, and engage your core muscles. People sometimes sit at their workplace on an exercise ball. That's great, because those exercise balls are just working these fine little stabilizing muscles in the abdominal muscles. Yeah. But same thing, even if you just sit forward on the edge of your chair and you use a little bit more of your core strength to support your torso and your frame, as opposed to just resting into that back of the chair, that's going to help you. But then learning how to stand with good posture. And the one thing, if you can take away one thing from all this, alignment and muscle energy I'm talking about, is firm your thigh muscles and tone them back. So hug the fronts of the thighs towards the femur bone, the thigh bone, and that will be so huge to helping your lower back problems if you have them, that strain in the low back. When you do that, your tailbone will slightly descend, and the abdominal muscles naturally, impulsively lift up. You don't even have to do it. All you have to do is firm thighs, tailbone moves slightly down, and the low belly engages. Now you've improved your posture significantly, whether you're sitting or standing.
Just a subtle movement.
Subtle. So subtle, it's not huge. Yeah. But if at the same time, if you were to stand in mountain pose for a minute, you'd feel like the muscles are kind of fatigued, and they kind of want to go back, because I've let them so much go to a relaxed state. And a relaxed state is fine, from time to time, but too often.
When you let go, it doesn't go all the way like this. It stays like this.
Right. You're literally training your physical body to hold itself in a better posture, in better alignment that is going to help you for the length of your life. Stand and breathe.
And just like a head on your back of your neck. What is it? Head's 20 pounds or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
You sit here like this, and you lean your head forward. You can feel the pressure going down your back.
Yeah.
You lean it back. You can feel your body trying to adjust. So just sitting with your, taking your hair and pulling like this, boom, I just adjusted my posture. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but leaning forward, I can feel the muscles in my back holding on to my head because it's 20-pound weight, bowling ball trying to go forward. Yeah,
and part of that, I speak to this in yoga classes all the time, is part of that is this, just the forward mentality of our culture. Everything moving forward. Driven, we're in a rush. What's the next thing? If you're not growing, you're dying. That kind of mentality. You know what I mean? And so it kind of almost pulls us like this. Yeah. And one of the main categories of yoga poses is back bends, and think of it as a front body opener. You're lifting and opening the chest. So those are really important, because consciously they bring our awareness to the back body. We have to tone and strengthen the back muscles, including our glutes and the hamstrings, in order to lift and really kind of puff the chest and press the spine towards the surface of the front of the body. And what that does, physically, as I was just talking about, is it counteracts this poor posture, slumped posture that we have. So that just, if you're interested in that physical, bring those back bends in, daily. But then energetically what it does is it also slows us down. It brings our awareness to the back body, which is like our subconscious, and it's allows us to slow down, not move as fast into what we're doing. And that's where you're starting to talk about like the peace of mind angle of things is now we're moving just a little bit more consciously, a little bit more slowly. We're making we're making decisions, choices with our actions that are going to be more sustainable and more positive and healthy for us. So, after yoga practice, we're a little bit more naturally thinking, I'd like to eat something really, really good right now. I don't want to just go eat garbage.
My diet's changed, but it's.
You naturally you're like, I want to drink some water,
Yeah.
and I want to eat something that's really kind of vital.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have to change and be a vegetarian just to get on your yoga mat. But you'll notice some changes that start to happen over time.
When I eat a pizza, I'm like, oh goddamn, this is good, but fuck.
Yeah.
But because I eat salad every day, I know my body loves that. Boy, I eat a salad, and my body goes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I eat pizza, my taste buds go, man, this is good. But later on, I'm like,
You can feel sluggish.
Yes.
So there's energy everything has energy, and in yoga, there is 3 very specific types of energy that is manifesting in all of everything. It's inside of us, and one is not necessarily bad or the other is good, but what these energies represent is slothfulness or laziness, energy, passion, it's kind of unstable, and more of a purity, more of kind of a light illuminating quality, which is very clean. And so foods have that quality. And some foods, when we eat them, they make us feel sluggish. They make us feel slothful and lazy. And other foods, and very often those are the foods that are sugar. It contains this energy. Sugar also has that energetic passion because we get some of that. But then what happens? Correct. Then we get the sloth and the lazy, right? And then there's foods, which are usually our greens and our vegetables, that have more of that light or cleansed or pure element of energy. And when we eat those, we feel more vital. We feel more alive. And like I said, everything has these energies. So the things that we do in our life, and it doesn't have to just be yoga. Kayaking brings out that in me. Those physical getting out in nature is one of the most spiritually rewarding and most invigorating things that I do. It brings vitality back into my life. I go for days. Kevin mentioned earlier that I moved from Colorado here to the East Coast, and that was one of the biggest, the most difficult things of this transition is nature being a little bit harder to access. And so I've had to bring that in because I might go for days without really connecting to it, whereas there it was definitely more of a daily, and I had that access and be able to get on trails real easily. And so I know, like, sometimes I kind of forget, but then when I get into nature after being away from it for like 2 weeks, it's like, finally, like I can't believe I allowed myself to go that long without connecting to this. And so it doesn't have to mean like yoga is the only thing you can do that allows you to find, this purity, this cleansed. I mean, you can make conscious choices around what are those things that bring that vitality back into my life. Yeah. And there's definitely food choices, but there's activity choices. Yeah. Going to bed earlier, and I struggle with that one. With that one. But if you go to bed earlier, you tend to have more vitality the next day, and it's, seems so obvious, right? But sometimes we make these choices that are not for our own good, and we do it a lot because like begets like. And so, for example, I have a very natural, passionate, kind of the Irish, fiery energy to me. And so naturally I love spicy foods, but that only exasperates that like fire quality. So, I need to eat foods like cucumber, which have like a water and a cooling element to them. I have to make myself eat them because I want the fiery, I want the spice, but it only makes me sweat. It only makes me more red and fiery. So you're seeking balance with everything.
Yeah, and that's in what I got out of yoga was balance because. Okay, in direct relation to kayaking, what's the one thing a kayaker needs to save his life on the water? It's not life jacket, it's not all that stuff. It's being calm when shit gets really bad.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing that will save you and a physically in shape body to get you through that bad situation. I've been nearly killed so many times by Mother Nature that if it wasn't for me staying calm and me having the strength of a body to make it through it and didn't have anything blow out. Didn't have a shoulder pop, or didn't freak the fuck out.
And strength of mind, yeah.
Yeah, strength of mind, right? And that's the calmness that I wouldn't be here right now, right? And I did an experiment one time with spade fishing. And it can frustrate as shit fish to catch, right? You keep around the pilings and they pull you off and breaks off, and you just got to be fast action to get them to boom, and you got to move, right? You got to get around the pilings. I practiced in the morning one morning, and then didn't practice in the morning one morning to go out and fish. And the practice morning was, of course, something happened. I was just calmer about it. The day I didn't practice, I was a little bit higher strung, and it was, and for me that was a while ago. But for me, I was just like, that's interesting.
Yeah. I used to be a subscriber to Outdoor Magazine, and I remember, that there's always the back page, the last article on that back page of a magazine is always, kind of the most read thing of a magazine. And I remember an article about a guy who survived an avalanche, but he had a yoga practice, and I think he had a beacon on him,
right.
But he was in an avalanche, completely covered, and his first, instincts were to like try and fight and get out, but that didn't no value, and that was only gonna
burn him out.
It was only gonna burn him out. Exactly, it was literally gonna kill him because it was gonna use up his oxygen and use up his energy, and only make matters worse and literally kill him. And then he remembered, he wasn't like an everyday yoga kind of person, but he'd been to enough yoga classes to remember, just breathe, and that's all he could do. And he just focused on his breath, and that kept him from freaking out. In those situations, in those literal, if you're an adventurer and you're out in some sort of intense situation, I've been in my share as well, that is what you need, is the breath. That's the ability to stay calm, not panic, just breathe. And we can use that in day-to-day. We can use that in our relationships when we are there with that one person who is like just making us want to scream and throw our cell phone or break something, whatever. Just breathe, don't panic, stay calm, and usually cooler heads prevail. And in this case of the avalanche story, he survived, he was rescued because of his beacon, and he just, he saved his oxygen, and they literally said, like you might have only had 10 more minutes of oxygen, but because he was letting his breath slow down, that was keeping his nervous system calm, he was using less oxygen, literally saved his life.
And the way the yoga practice does that, for me, when I was getting into it, my dad was a wrestling coach, all right? So I grew up as a wrestler. And so when I was probably 5 years old, my dad used to ball me up. I mean, he was huge. He used to ball me up. He'd ball me up in a little ball and go, relax. I panic. Oh shit! I'm trying. Relax, breathe, relax. And I'd be in this worst, like this, and I just breathe and be able to slink. My body would relax, and I'd be able to slink out of his hold. I was able to slink out and breathe. And I noticed that when I first started going to yoga, and I was like, this feels like my dad balling me up, and I gotta relax here, because yoga puts in you these positions are uncomfortable, right? For a reason. They're uncomfortable in the sense that you're not used to being like this and stretching out, and then breathing a little bit further, and it's so. But it's that alone is like that. How it teaches you without directly teaching you is to relax in uncomfortable situations.
That's a big part of it. Yes, exactly. Is learning to be comfortable in uncomfortable situations. Because sometimes you're in a pose and you're like, I cannot wait to get out of this pose, and that is all your mental energy. When do we get out? How do I get out? You know what I mean? And you can absolutely come out when you need to come out.
Yes,
But the idea is that over time you learn to choose when it's right to challenge yourself.
Yep.
To just stay. I mean, that's a huge lesson. I can stay in this uncomfortableness and breathe and be okay with it for just another moment, another couple breaths, and it will change. And that is the nature of life, and that is the nature of our messed up minds, too, is that they're transient, and there's constantly change. Change is the only constant. And so, you're going through a down spell of your life, whatever the case, it will change. It will change, you know what I mean? And just be with this and ride it out. And just see if you can pay attention to this, because there's going to be lessons for you that are there in that moment, and hopefully you can break that cycle, because sometimes we have cycles that we get spinning in the same thing. How did I end up in this situation again? You know what I mean? And here I am again. Pay attention, because there's something that you're missing. Look at it, and learn to just be okay with it.
And see, and again, that's how that you get these lessons for these mental strengths that you get out of doing these physical things. And that's the beauty. That's why yoga was so fascinating for me. It was I'm getting all this stuff from just doing this. I'm in my, like you said, everybody's going through in a yoga rooms. Everybody's having a practice together, but everybody's going through their own practice.
Exactly.
You know, I'm going through. Man, this the other day this was weird, but now it's all right. And damn, this was easy as shit yesterday. What's wrong with me? You know, I can't stand on this foot. Oh God. You know, and that's what's awesome about it. And not only that, but it's. You get those lessons and you don't know what's happening until you get in a situation and you start to find yourself breathing and you're like, wait a minute, usually I would jump here. You know, like what I said right at the beginning, there's steps before you get here, before you escalate to blowing up on somebody or getting mad.
Yeah.
There's steps to it, and most of the time it's in our fast-paced, go forward world, it just, bam, and you already hit here and you're already mad. There's steps you can break shit down before it gets to there, and it's, you know, through a yoga practice, and you know, I've been practicing 4 years now. I've been able to, you know, shit in my own life, being able to break stuff down, you know, and that's
exactly
huge.
what I spoke about this morning in my morning's class. About actually, I stumbled into a CrossFit class, and it was totally accidental. You might be wondering how that happened, but it was a memorial class for a fallen soldier, and so I thought I was going to memorial. I didn't know what the words WOD meant, or the letters WOD meant, which mean workout of the day. But I just come from teaching yoga, and the teacher was there. Was like, "Why don't you join us? Do you have any clothes?" I said, "Okay, well, I got these yoga clothes, and you know they're fine to work out, but I didn't have shoes." But anyway, I did the workout, and I was talking to my studentship about how I got a little judgy because I saw people with they were doing stuff, but they weren't doing it very good with good posture, and I'm always looking at that kind of thing. And I just was like, it was a lesson in first letting go of judgment.
Judgy, but at the same time you were like wanting to help them.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But I know my place. The other aspect of it was, I just noticed how much tension people were putting into their bodies. And as I talked about earlier, tension is not all bad. It can sometimes sounds bad, right? Get a bad rap. But we need a certain amount of tension. And for some of these people, maybe they work 9 to 5 and they need that outlet to burn off.
Tension and release. Tension and release.
Exactly. And so I get that. And at the same time, if that is like our thing, and like, if you're type A and driven and you're just like, man, 5 days a week I'm doing like a CrossFit, after class or after work or whatever, then, that tension is almost combustible, as you're talking about, and then you're in a situation where your partner or your coworker or whatever says something and it just triggers that time bomb, and bam, you explode, verbal diarrhea basically onto them, whatever the case, and so we need to balance that out. We need to find also ease, we need to find relaxation. So yoga can be a great balancing activity to include with your normal, whether it's kayaking is my thing, or whether it's like I love to work out, but yoga can always be a great balancing just to find that relaxation component.
What's awesome is how many, now I can see, and you can see, is how many people from different sports are in yoga. You can see runners, because their hamstrings are tight. My back, from kayaking. I got a big developed back from kayaking. The girl who's a dancer is one of your teachers. Her body type is a ballet dancer, not a stripper dancer. Ballet dancer.
Yes.
You can see her tones and
what they do with the poles too. There's certain muscle groups that they work.
No doubt. That's an art. I mean, yeah. That's an art. I mean,
yes, there's so many different body types, and whatever physical activity you do, if it is a repetitive motion activity, and I'll use the dance for example, is they do, particularly ballet, they do that toe turn out thing so much, and sometimes they come up on the balls of their feet and their toes are turned out, or they extend a leg out and that toe's turned out. So they do what we call external rotation in that leg, always turning the knee out away from the center line. And so they really develop these outer glute, outer thigh muscles, and it naturally over time develops their body into that kind of stance, which puts pressure into the low back. And the inner thigh muscles, there's not a balance there between the strength of the outer leg and the inner leg, and so we need to recalibrate that a little bit. And so that's one of the big things that I work with them is toning the inner thighs and bringing that balance back in to alleviate that discomfort in the low back that can come from some of those repetitive motion activities.
And you can see it in the bodies. And I mean, and especially around here, we have military guys that are coming in, and that's great because. I mean, I was in the military. I mean, your packs and it's not the best postured. You're with the pack. You got 80 pounds on you're humping, and it's just it sucks. And it's a lot of weight and muscle in that, and to come and be able to do a practice, you see the guys in there, and it helps, and it helps a lot, and of course with the stress relief, right?
Yeah.
And you get into that mental side of things. That's the incredible stress relief because it's a low impact, but it's
because the culture of the military,
Yeah.
you know, you need to find the balance with that. You need to be able to step out of that and be like, this is my time. You know, I'm coming back into a state of not so intense.
And that's where I've gotten to where when I go into class, when I get on my mat, when I get on my mat, I'm almost like not get on my mat until I'm ready to get down on the mat and go, I'm here on my mat. Most of the time you do it in the beginning class to settle down, get into the present moment. You're here now. I do it as soon as I touch my mat. I get on and I just like, all right, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm actually, I'm here now. I'm here now. Yeah.
That forward.
How many times have I stressed out going to yoga class because I'm running late?
Yeah. It's happened to all of us. It's happened to all of us. So we know as yoga teachers to talk about that. I'm going to back up just a little bit because you were just talking about the military men and the packs and all that. We had a guy who used to come, he was just stationed here briefly, but he talked about, he was a pilot. In this area, there's a fair amount of the pilots. Yeah. He talked about, he was in, I don't know what they call the really big ones, big heavy jets or whatever, that they would be in like a, what do you call it, Mach 4 turn for like 90 minutes. And he's like, that pressure on my spine, it's like pushing me down into the pilot seat. And it's just, that pressure is all going into the little discs in between each and every vertebra. It's going into the bones themselves. And that pressure is just, it's intense over time. And yeah, if you're wearing a pack, whether you're a backpacker or, it's military related, you got a backpack on, again, that weight is going into the body. And so one of the things that yoga does is it re-lengthens the spine, it spaces out those vertebra, brings a little relief to those discs, which are just basically, literally little shock absorbers, little cushy shock absorbers. Those get compressed over time, and man, when you lose those and there's a grinding of bone on bone, oh man, I can't imagine the discomfort, but I know that some people have that situation.
I have bone on bone in my ankle. Yeah, and that's it feels like I'm walking and it feels like somebody shoots me in the ankle with a BB gun.
Yeah,
it's bam, and it takes my breath away. It's a shock, and but it goes, but it hurts. And as soon as that hits, my muscles tighten up and all that stuff. And I'm now.
But you can learn techniques through the practice to, strengthen the muscles around it that will alleviate that pain, or or at least kind of keep you away from it.
My feet are strong.
Oh yeah,
feet are strong. Muscles in my feet have changed. My feet have changed and are strong. Just from going from going up dog and back. Just rolling on my feet. I've strengthened my feet, which has helped my feet. My ankles also roll in. Yeah. Right. So now
that lift of the inner arches
and the side of your foot, boom. I immediately boom. It lifts everything up. So I'm constantly doing that. Even when I'm taking a pee, I'll go on the outside of my ankles just to get my relief out of rolling down. Because look at my ankles. Walk around if you flip flops. It's summertime. How many ankles are rolling down like this?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with a private client who had a club foot one time, and I mean it's just so beneficial. Yoga can be therapeutic for any specific thing that we have going on. If you do have a major issue, it's great to work with a teacher one-on-one, of course. I was just thinking what you were talking about with the feet. Oh, when I first transitioned from teaching part-time, 2 classes a week, to being a full-time teacher, my feet were sore for the first 3 months, just because I constantly doing yoga and demonstrating, the poses. My feet, I noticed that, like as much as anything else, my feet were sore because I was just constantly engaging them and working these little subtle muscle lifts and tones even through the feet. So yeah, you're just, as we talked about earlier, you're learning to communicate with your entire body, and it is a full body exercise or workout, if you want to call it that.
It really is.
Full body. You're gonna work muscles that you've never worked or you rarely work,
and awaken them and charge them.
And every practice allows you to touch on all those muscles. Sometimes I might theme a practice that's going to focus on one muscle group a little bit more, but I'm always going to touch on every muscle to some degree.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether you're coming in with like, I really want my shoulder to get worked on, or it's this issue here, you're always going to get some relief with that in every class.
Yeah, because usually there's a class that has a focus, like there's body parts that's being focused. We're going to focus on the shoulders. We're going to focus on the legs. So we're going to do a lot of standings and balances and stuff like, or the back. And back bends, man. I'm 4 years in, and the last 2 years of the back bends have been beneficial. I didn't have them before. I could only do bridge without going up going up to wheel. I just got that breakthrough a couple years ago, and it wasn't muscles, it wasn't strength, it was my wrist couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And because my injuries in my wrist from skateboarding, I was slamming my wrist. So it's it's once I got that, once I was able to do that, and my teacher, it was AJ at Bodie, just let me hold on his ankles.
Yeah.
And oh wow, and now those blocks, and now I'm without the blocks, and now it was like this, and now I'm turning it in, and now I'm pushing it even further, and step by step I'm getting it better.
There's a progression.
I'm holding
every pose.
3 breaths. I used to have to come down, and I can do 5 breaths. You know, it's every time you just go a little bit further, and knowing how you don't have to go too far. Here's jump backs. There's this thing where we do the yoga push up, and we go this kind of like back stretch thing. Or no, before we do that, we standing forward stretch, and either jump back to the half push up, and then you jump forward into the standing, right? At the beginning of my winters, I'm like more gung-ho, I jump back all the time. Now, since I'm kind of settling out of it, I'm not jumping, I'm walking for it. I might do 1 or 2 jump, and I don't know, it's almost subconscious. I don't even know why it does that. It's because my body doesn't want to do it. Yeah. I wanted to do it then, my body doesn't want to do it now, but it's not like I'm not advancing.
It's an evolution. It's an evolution that you can absolutely, you can choose. And sometimes it becomes so ingrained that you're tuned into what your body actually needs. You know, when you're first coming, you might have just been like, I'm trying to follow along. Everyone else is doing this. I'm going to do it. But you might learn later on. Your body might communicate to you. You know what? I don't need to do that because everyone else is doing. That was kind of an ego driving me there. And now I realize that my body is more suited to walking forward. Yeah. You know, and that's the thing. Many of us, if you're considering, trying yoga, you're probably coming in at some advanced age. And by advanced, I don't mean you're old, but you didn't start it when you were 12. Right. And many, when yoga was first born out of India, they were teaching it to young, youthful boys who could do very athletic things, and at that point didn't have significant injuries or, weight problems or whatever the case that might have limited them. So we have to understand our limitations. And then also for advanced age, my practice is different now than it was 10 years ago. I can do things that are more athletic than 10 years ago because I've learned to train my muscles to be able to do those things. And at the same time, there's other things that I do that are like less athletic because I don't need to do them. I realize that that's actually going to hurt my body over time. You know what I mean?
Like my jump backs, they might be a little bit too jarring for me today. Exactly. I don't feel like, maybe I kicked the bag last night and I did enough jarring last night. I mean, I don't want to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So
but tomorrow, I might feel like I want to do it, so I'll do it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So you can kind of gauge how much impact, which yoga is always going to be low impact, but as far as, that style of sun salutation, more the dynamic vinyasa, which is what it's called, you're hopping back, or you have the option to hop back, that is going to be the most impactful. Yeah. And so you might or might not want to do that. And very often I don't do the jump back. Or you can, if you're really, really getting into it, you can engage and really tone and almost float it back. So
I've seen your jump backs. Yeah, I did when I saw you. I was like, damn. Yeah, you. Hell, Jody at Zen the other day, she did a jump back she went straight into up dog from a jump back. I never saw that before. I mean, it's just and top of her foot. And hell, she's same jumping as you, handstand to jump back, that she can do all in forward. And I just never saw it before. And that's what's cool. Even at my practices, when I'm in the higher level classes, but I'm still I'm not a high level dude. I'm still learning. Every practice, I'm learning something. And we get into a pose, and so if you know the advanced poses, go ahead and do it. And I'm looking around to see if anybody does it because I haven't seen it before. Mm-hmm. It's not that it. And a lot of times, I don't even try it. Yeah. I just want to see it. Yeah. Like Brad the other day, he was twisted in like this. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even know you could do that. I didn't know you could do this. Now, I know that's where the next step is, but that's just for me. I choose whether to do it or not. I'm not driven to do it. It's just if my body wants to do it. Yeah. And I do a 20-minute home practice. It's standing. It's a little bit of vinyasa, a little bit of standing just to wake my body up, and it does. Hold just that 20 minutes. And I usually do about a 6-minute meditation in the morning. And when I went to the tournament here that couple weeks ago, I went down to Louisiana. Fucking car ride sucked. It was 17 hours, dude. It was in the back of a car, just tight. And then that next day, I didn't get a chance to do anything. We just went right on the water, and then we fished. And that night, I went there, and my my cabin mates gave me some space, and my teammates gave me some space, and I was able to do my practice. And I went through it, and it just opened everything. Everything felt so much better. And then right at the end of what I usually do, I listen to my body, and I was like, what else do I need to do? What else do you need me to do? And it said shoulder stand. And I went in a shoulder stand, and it was like, it was vibrating, and my breath slowed down, and it all started echoing. It was almost like I was having a meditative state, a serious, like trippy meditative state in this, and I asked my body what to do, and it told me to do this, and I did it.
And so
it was awesome.
I mean, so Kevin here is actually talking about kind of some advanced level yoga, of being able to actually listen to your body and know what to do on your own, and that comes with time. When you get you know 4 years, 3 years into your yoga practice, then you can start to listen to intuitively what you need, and that's how you do develop an at-home practice. There's always going to be value to going to a class.
Oh no, the practice of the class is where I learn.
Yeah,
it is also where. Talking about energy levels and being, okay, I was in boot camp. I wasn't alone in boot camp. Everybody in boot camp was having the same thing. There was the energy of all of us as one unit in there. When you're in a yoga class with everybody in there, and at the beginning, and we're doing the chants, and chants might scare people, but it's not, because just sit there and listen to it.
It's optional. And it's just vibration. All it is vibration. Let it resonate and wash over you.
But when you get in the class and everybody knows the chants, and it's powerful. It'll set you into almost an amazing feeling before you start to practice, or it closes out the practice with this amazing feeling. So, yeah.
And there's literally science behind everything too. The chanting of Om. Even if you just close your mouth and hum, if you do that, you'll feel a vibration resonating within your skull, and that simple vibration can help alleviate issues with mouth, nose, eyes. Because you feel that vibration, and it's kind of breaking up maybe little crystallized things that have gotten stuck.
On a small level, but even on that small level, big things have to start from a small level.
Yeah, and that vibration also relaxes the frontal lobe of the brain. Frontal lobe of the brain is the part of the brain that is involved with problem solving, practical planning. This is the part of our brain that is active all day long. It's the part of the brain that looks at clouds and tries to discern that's an object, that's something I've seen before, whatever. And so we need to relax that frontal part of the brain. If you suffer from any migraines or headaches, then just the simple can alleviate those headaches. It's really, really powerful. So, be open-minded to that. Not every yoga class is going to have chanting, but many of them do. And just listen to it. If you don't feel, it's kind of funny. My wife and I always kind of joke, because there's a school of yoga around here, and the teachers are always trained to say, you don't have to chant along, but you can if you'd like, and blah, blah, blah. And and so we're just like, we don't do that whole spiel. My wife and I just chant. Yeah. And we know that if people don't want to chant, they're not going to chant. Yeah. But I don't need to tell them they have an out, They don't need that. They know that they got it, Everything is optional in a yoga class, but you try and do everything that you can and what feels right to you. So chanting is completely optional.
And in the science, you touched on something that everything, not only in yoga, but in the philosophy, has started to become linked to science. There's links, and even on the energy level, you think of energy as in not a real whole, not a substance. It's more of you think of energy as in kind of a mystical way, but energy is a substance.
We're made up of energy. We're all vibration.
Everything vibrates. This piece of wood here is vibrating. This is vibrating, even though it's still and it's metal. It's on a very super small there's cells in there that are bouncing, right? Even on solids. We know this in science. Yeah. And so if you break it down onto that level, you start to open up a lot of stuff. And I mean, energy transference. I mean, the Reiki thing I did with Leela, and Tesla was trying to send energy through the ground and through the sky. I mean, this is stuff that's been worked on by scientists. Yeah. And it's no different from human energy. We are energy conductors. I mean, Matrix that's basic. We are energy conductors. Everything is. And if it gets really small, and you break down and you get really small. But when you get down really small, you start to open up to a lot of stuff. And it's not so hokey dokey when you kind of can have stuff that kind of look at science.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. And that is, you said the exact right things, is we are energy conductors. And that's the point of chanting. It's not just like some hokum. It's not like, oh, this is tying me to some cult or some religion.
Right.
The very point of chanting Om is now to attune your vibration. Think of your body as a musical instrument, and it can get off tune. You know what I mean? You can be a little edgy, you know, and so, or you can be a little sleepy. You know, and so just by the chanting of Om, which is the simple basic mantra, is tuning back to a very clear vibration, back to a vibration that is adaptable. Like when we're in a group setting and everyone's chanting Om, everyone's tuning to this universal vibration. That's what it is. You're tuning back into a very universal vibration, and it's very calming, and it, you know, has a deep impact.
So not only, you know, getting the teacher's instruction at a class, but you have that group thing that's happening. That's incredible. That's incredible, and it's awesome. And I mean, I chant at home in my morning practice, but it's by myself, and I get out of it. But it's not as powerful as when you're in a class.
You know, and learning chants too can be a breathing practice in and of itself. You know, to be able to maintain your breath, just like anybody who's, you know, a singer. You know, learning when to take the breath and let the breath come in. So that's an interesting aspect of it too. There's one thing that I feel like would be really valuable to talk about with your listeners here, and you know, because we've kind of been moving along a little bit and talking about, you know, more advanced sides of the yoga a little bit. And one thing that I always point out to brand new beginners is that every body type is different, and we have talked about that a little bit.
I wanted to hit on that also a little bit more.
But you know, thinking like, oh, well, my pose is supposed to look like that pose because that's the way it's pictured in a book, or that's the way that yoga teacher can do it. Every body is different, and one of the big things to note, I mentioned tension earlier, and tension pertains to muscle. You know, so if I do a bunch of bicep curls, you know, I develop this meaty bicep muscle, and it might be difficult for me to straighten my arm unless I also balance that out by working the tricep muscle, or unless I do an appropriate amount of stretching also in coordination with that exercise. The other half of the equation is what's called compression. And I know this is a little scientific, a little nerdy, but compression is bone hitting another bone. So if I raise my arm straight forward without letting the arm go out and around my, you know, the shoulder girdle, which comes up and wraps over, it's going to eventually collide, and it can't go up any higher because a bone has now hit another bone. Your bone structure is not going to change unless you break something or have a surgery. You don't want it to change. It is what it is. So if you have a limitation there, then you slowly learn how to adapt around it as necessary, or you don't worry about it. You don't worry about changing. So for example, the downward facing dog, which is one of the most common yoga poses there is. People don't know, my heels aren't on the ground. They're supposed to be on the ground, right? You know? Well, maybe not.
So people
for you, you know, you might have a lot of tensile tension in your hamstrings, and so the knees are bent, and you're feeling that stretch in the hamstrings, and that's beautiful. You're opening up that muscle group, and that's a big muscle group, and it's not a bad thing to have tension there. Don't think that tension is bad. You know, you're going to feel a stretch. The point of a stretch, like if you think, oh God, I'm so tight because I'm stretching, everybody feels sensation in stretch. Maybe because I'm more flexible, I lean over and I bend further than Kevin, maybe not.
Yep.
Okay, so the other aspect of it is like, okay, if my bone hits a bone in downward dog, maybe the front of my foot only flexes back so much because of the bone structure around my ankle and my shin and top of the foot. Well, maybe that limits the heel from getting further down. Or maybe actually my knee doesn't straighten all the way because of the shape of the head of the thigh bone and the you know.
And you might not know it.
You might not know that.
I realize now my hips are two completely different areas.
You might have one leg longer than the other. These are very common things.
I have actually hips that are different.
Yeah, I have a half size, my left foot's half size bigger than my right foot. Sometimes you don't know these things until you actually look at it. You actually observe, oh yeah, wow. You know, I had, you know, the girl you're talking about, she's a dancer, just learned she had scoliosis, a slight scoliosis.
Yeah, me too.
You just learn these things. Yeah. And so you can work with that, and that's the beauty of it. So no, your heels don't ever have to touch the ground, and that might be because you might open your hamstrings. You might have the most open hamstrings in the whole wide world. But the thing is, the heels don't touch the ground. But that, again, could be because the knees, because of compression, it won't allow your leg to actually get any more straight than it is. Or maybe the ankle won't flex back any more than it is. And so that you don't worry about changing because it's not going to change. And so you just breathe where you're at. And so your poses, all the poses in all the bodies are going to look different every pose.
Yeah.
And the right pose for you is the pose that allows you to stay with your breath and be in that moment. You have energy and awareness going through your whole body. so you're present. You're not just like la di da, I'm hanging out.
Yeah.
You're engaged and you're focused, and at the same time, there's also this ease. There's this ability to absorb and receive and feel the breath permeating through your body. It's not so gripped and tense that things are blocked and stuck.
One of the classes recently when I went to, she really, just a key thing to look out for when you're breathing and your breathing stops and you have that sudden, you're too deep. Back out, let that breathing smooth.
Yes.
Yeah. You can have all this tension, you can have all this shit going on, but you need to have that breath smooth. That's when you know to back out. And that was a great tip, Key, that she said. Now, in body types, I mean, we're two different body types. We're the same size, but I'm bulkier, and I have to adjust to poses just to get muscle out of the way. Like on my shoulder stretches. If I just go back to a shoulder stretch, this gets in the way and I can't get into it. So I have to get around it, get the muscle out of the way, or even when we're sitting, we're in certain poses, you have to pull muscle out of the way to get in. Just being able to do that. But yeah, two different body types. Well, we're both yogis in two different body types. And that's the thing, is it doesn't matter what your body type is.
The pose can be adapted to suit your body type. And one of the keys to that, and another reason why studios tend to be the best route, is they have the props.
Yeah.
You might need props to adjust your pose so that it serves you.
It's that you adjust your pose to your body type to serve you and to do it right, to have it correctly formed and
correct safe alignment.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because that's the thing, is like you can a little off and you're doing it a little bit wrong. It's not doing it. You're hurting. You might be hurting yourself. You might not know it. Yeah. And paying attention to yourself when you're in class. Yeah, I mean, of course, guys, what about all the hot chicks in there? Well, if you're looking at hot chicks in there, you're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna twist something you're gonna twist something wrong because you're not paying attention to your body, because shit's happening in your body and you best be paying attention to it.
Yeah, you're almost, you can't, it's like the moment you try and balance and do something else, you start to think about what I need to do later on, then you lose your focus and you lose your balance.
And you start to notice that, even if you're not conscious of it, you'll start
trying to do a pose, other than maybe child's pose or lying on your back, if your mind's somewhere else, or if you're focusing on the person next to you for whatever reason, then you're not there, and chances are the pose is going to end up falling apart. Literally it might mean you falling.
And you might twist something that might hurt, and
that's the reason why my wife and I don't do every pose while we're instructing. Some teachers will be up there and they'll be talking the whole. That tends to happen sometimes a little bit more frequently at gyms, where the teacher will just kind of be doing the whole class and verbally telling you what they're doing.
Yep.
But that's why my wife and I don't demonstrate everything we do, because we are focused on the students.
Yes.
And when we're focused on the students, then we can't focus as much on our body, and it puts our body in a vulnerable position.
Oh, yeah, you think about that. Yeah.
So we talk about that with our teacher trainees, about that's why we get up and we walk around, so we can observe bodies and we can keep our bodies safe. And it's better for us to do like, hey, everybody, watch this.
Yep.
If there's something important that you really need to visually show,
take a break,
and that's the
stop,
thing.
and it also gives everybody just a little bit of
pause. So I do that more when I'm working with beginners, because they
Yes.
need more breaks. In addition, they also need to see more.
Yes.
People learn, as we know, visually,
Yep.
auditory, or kinesthetically. So that's, being able to see it. We all learned to some degree through that. We all learned some degree verbally, and all to some degree by experiencing.
And that's
the thing. Yoga has to be experienced. I can't just watch Kevin do yoga and be like, I'm getting all this benefit. Although there might be some energetic transfer to Kevin's energy getting relaxed and me watching that. There might be something to that, but overall, you have to do it yourself too. You can't just read a yoga book and be like, I got it. Like, now I'm a yoga master.
Yeah. You have to practice. You have to practice. And just the saying, I learned that really early on, that it's not doing yoga, it's a yoga practice. Because it's always practicing. You're not ever achieving it, you're just practicing it. And the stuff that comes around is the benefits of it.
There's never a the performance is your life.
Yeah.
And that's what the practice is helping you in your life.
Yeah,
And that's
helping my performance on the water. It's helping what I've done in every bit of my life. Not only physical activities, but in work and relationships and dealing with myself, especially. I'm a crazy person. See, I think it's obvious. I mean, nobody does the stuff that I've done, with tours like I've done by myself, without a leash, without a safety net, without being a little wacky. So, yes, I'm a crazy person. I've had to deal with my own mental stuff. I mean, lots of stuff. And through the yoga practice, that's helped. It helps it deal with it, compartmentalize it, kind of look at it, break it apart. It has those breakdowns where you can, it gives you that after a while. You know, you're not going to get that in your first yoga class. You're going to get that through, like I said, through the practice.
But you'll get the physical too. You know, you'll start to see those benefits coming pretty quickly.
Physical, that's the first thing you're going to notice.
Yep.
Because you're actually...
But that helps you with your life performance too.
Yep.
You know, one of the most simple definitions of yoga I ever heard, I shared this recently, was I was working with a group of at-risk youth. And afterwards, it was most of theirs first experience ever with yoga, you know, and I was just checking in. And I said, you know, how do you guys feel? And one of them responded, said, man, you know, I feel like I could get the same amount of shit done, but feel better doing it. And that's true. You know, just like you said, 20 minutes in the day or you're once a week.
That's exactly it.
I can get the same amount of stuff done and feel better doing it. There you go. I mean, is there any better sell than that? You know, yeah. So it's going to right away, you know, that performance, and I am talking physically. If you just want that, it's going to help with your performance of your life. And when you feel better in your body, then what? Now you're going to be a little bit more calm and relaxed in your relationships. So those things start to come pretty quickly too, and those other layers just start to build up. You know, but when we're feeling good in our body, you know, when we, as I talked about earlier with nature, you know, and it's the same with exercise. If you're not getting out, you know, then just things start to get built up, and then you're less patient and you're less of a kind person, you know, and all these things start to happen and manifest. But when you start to breathe and when you start to exercise and start to get out of nature and you start to, you know, whatever your yoga is, you start to bring it into your life, you're feeling lighter, you're feeling more at ease, and now you're naturally going to be more patient and more kind and more compassionate. And it's just a natural extension of your energy level that you've been able to work through and create through the yoga practice or through the other activities that bring you balance. So, you know, to me, yoga is so infinite in terms of, like, yes, there's those physical poses, and yes, I can sit on a cushion and meditate. But, you know, maybe my yoga today is getting out on the kayak. Maybe my yoga today is getting out on the hike and still breathing in the fresh air there. Yep. So, you know, it doesn't have to be, for me, 6 days a week on the mat or 7 days a week on the mat. Very often I am on my mat quite frequently, but, you know, I've allowed, you know, there might have been a time when I was a little bit more type A in that regard. And now I've softened around that, and it's actually more valuable, because as you were talking about earlier, those diminishing returns. I can get a lot of value from that, but, you know, the other day I was leading teacher training and I was in the yoga studio all day long and I was showing lots of yoga poses and so on and so on, and I left, and, you know, sometimes I'm like, well, I didn't really do my own practice where it's just me zoned in, but I was like, you know what would be more valuable for me? Taking my kayak out on the river and being out in nature and being alive and getting the sun on me. So, you know, your yoga can be a conscious choice towards what brings you happiness.
And it's that balance. It's that balance. It's not being so into one thing. It's having that other thing that kind of counters that thing that you do. You know, and that was what yoga was for me when I first got into it, because it was kayaking, and I just needed a balance from that. And now it's in the wintertime. I don't paddle from January to March, and it's because I noticed by December I'm getting irritated by the waves. You know, I'm getting irritated by sitting in that seat. And if I didn't have that time off away from my kayak, I wouldn't be as strong and as gung-ho as I am right now. As I just take away, I don't have, because I've got a lot of knowledge in my head about what's going on. I know the tides, what's going on, you know, water temperatures. I know all this stuff that's happening right now out there. And a month ago, all that was gone. All that was out. My head was empty from it. But because I have this time off, I come back like an animal. I come back like a warrior.
You come back rejuvenated.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that balance. It's that balance. And it's you know, mine is what I do, but having that daily balance. You know, your work and then your play. And yoga's play. Yoga is all play, because when you're in there doing that, it's a play thing. You're how far you go is up to you. So it's no competition. You're not even in competition with yourself. You're listening to your body. What do you want to do today? Do you want to do this, or do you want to do this? And but as long as you're there doing it, putting in, you know, showing up and doing it. You know, how many times have I gone in there? Fuck, I don't feel like doing this today, but I better go. Because I'll feel worse afterwards, you know, or any kind of exercise, right?
It's recreation. And if you look at the breakdown of that word, recreate, you're recreating yourself. So every time you step on the yoga mat, you're recreating. you're recreating from like, yeah, this has been broken down, this has been broken down because of all this stuff, and now I'm recreating. And like, and lots of things fall in that category of recreation again, kayaking, basketball, whatever. It's a recreation that allows you to recreate yourself back to a more positive state of mind and a more positive, energetic state. And so I love that it falls into that world of recreation. We're recreating ourselves.
It's in anything. It's just as long as you have a balance. I mean, for the last 2 years, I have a punching bag in my house, and I kick and hit the bag, and that's I do that like hard one day a week just to have. And it's not a workout. It's a workout, but it's fun as shit. God, hit a bag, and it's just fun.
We have a yoga teacher who has one, and she told us to get one. We haven't yet taken up on that, but I do have other things that I do when I need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's balance and it's play and it's fun, and through that you get all this stuff.
I think it's important, like you're just saying, to challenge yourself to do things. To do things that challenge you. And I'm sure kicking the bag, and for me, yoga inversions. They challenge me physically and mentally to be really clear and really present, and doing things that you might get a little scared doing it.
Backbends, man! Holy shit, backbends scared the fuck out of me when I was first. I was like, my back's not supposed to do this, but through doing it a couple times, I realized that you get a piece of iron and you start working it out. Start working it out forward and back, and I'm not doing it like that on my back, but I'm forward bending and now I'm back bending, and it's stretching out and through that, and now. And,
over time, you're loosening up those muscles.
In my morning practice, I told Megan about this. I do my morning practice and I end it with pigeons. So I got, I'm doing this stretch, and I get up and I do a forward fold, and there's something that releases in my back, and almost my pelvis, and it goes boom. It releases air, and I can drop another inch down to my thighs. I mean, I'm like fully extended, on a forward fold, and it's because of the back bend.
Yeah.
Because it released, it did this and went release some more, and then now I'm forward, and it pow, I got out of there, and it's almost every time. And it's a relief, man. If I don't do it, and if it stays tense, and I have to I have to spend maybe double the breaths in there to get that loosened up a little bit more. But it's
yeah. I can relate. We all have our things that can get stuck. So for me, if I've gone all day and just kind of been going about my errands and activities, hadn't gotten onto my yoga mat, or even if I have earlier, but then gotten into my busy life, I just need to lay on my back, bring my knees to the chest, and then lower the knees to the side with the arms outstretched.
I did that today at work.
Supine twist, and my spine it just does a little pop. It's like my own little chiropractic adjustment, and I'm like, man. Just take a deep breath. I sigh. I so needed that, and I might get a pop on the second side. I might not, but it's just like I needed to. Something got stuck in there, and I had to work it out. So,
and it's the muscles around too. It's
just the muscles around are locking up a little bit. So just that little, it softens the muscles. It recalibrates the spine and brings it back into alignment. And I mean, it's just significant. Then I feel like, okay, now I can get back to work. Now I can go do whatever I need to do, and I don't have this little bit of tension starting to build. And as I talked about, when that thing builds, expands, eventually that's when our body deteriorates, it crumbles, and that eventually, again, might cause us to then be a grumpy person.
Yep. Yeah, but when I feel tension and I mean, I'm grumpier. I mean, that's natural. You already have something going on inside you that's causing tension and causing yourself to get mad at yourself.
Causing discomfort.
Yeah, discomfort, and you almost gets mad at yourself.
Yeah.
In which you go out into the world and you be a little bit more aggressive, which causes a chain reaction. We've seen those commercials that you do something nice to this person, he does something nice for that person.
I love those commercials.
Yeah, it's awesome. It is so fucking true. You know how many times somebody has let me out and been cool, and I'm cool with the next person?
Yeah.
And that person's probably cool with the next person? Instead of going, not letting them out, and me, well, fuck you too, I'm not gonna let this motherfucker out, right? And that chain reaction, that chain reaction's happening. And so if you start out the day with a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more uplifting.
You might be the first one who starts the positive change.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Be the change in the world.
Exactly.
Do yoga.
Yeah. I mean, it could happen. It could happen.
Absolutely. I love the practical side of things. Yes, do I geek out sometimes, kind of on that spiritual vibe? Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because, I'm seeking, the light. But I love the practical nature of what I do and of what yoga does in people's lives. It makes them feel better.
Yeah.
It makes them feel better in their body. And that alone, we just talked about how that can make a significant impact in the whole world. You know what I mean? You were talking about if everyone just did yoga, they'd probably just be a little bit more calm, a little bit more relaxed, and a little bit more understanding of others. And it's so true. You know, I just think, man, if we could just get all our politicians doing yoga, we might be on something super huge. You know what I mean?
Because there's an understanding. There's an understanding that we're the same, and you start to see, especially because when you kind of look at things that make you upset are usually ego driven. So if you can kind of, when you get upset, you're kind of upset. You're causing yourself upsetness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because so if you start, once you get that, you start to break things down. You can kind of see, well, this other person's upset at me, but he's really upset. So you can kind of, we're the same. Everybody's the fucking same, and although we're completely different on the outside and all this shit, when it comes down to it, we're all the same. We all have the same things going on in our heads. We all have the same reactions. We all have the same.
We all have the same desire. To be happy.
Yeah.
To be free.
And once you kind of understand that, so it makes it a little bit easier to deal with other people and yourself at the same time.
Absolutely.
Because when you start to work on yourself, that's when it helps out with everybody. Because I can't help other people if I'm fucked up. You know, I have to be at the top of my game just to make sure, one, I'm good, you know, with what I'm doing, but make sure other people around me are good. You know, if I'm an asshole to Lee, he's gonna have a bad day. Our fishing days will be shitty, you know. And we're best friends. We fucking yell at each other all, you know. When it happens, it gets to that point. But if we both go out and I understand why I'm upset, or I understand, so we end up making up at the end and we have a good day together, you know. And it's that understanding that we're the same people. He's mad at this, I'm mad at this, and it's, you know, we're mad at. It's that understanding, and it's almost like your wife or your significant, your girlfriend. You have that because you've been together for so long, but you can have that with strangers.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
If I may, can I speak to? There's something that comes out of the Buddhist tradition that's called the 4 Brahmi Viharas, and the 4 Brahmi Viharas are the keys to unlocking your happiness and freedom. And what they are the ways to treat not only we think first others. That what they are is compassion and friendliness, and one translates roughly as reverence, you know, to someone who you really admire, the way that they live and the way that they interact. And one is non-entanglement, non-attachment. And so that one pertains to people who are kind of wicked and trying to bring you into their negative energy. You don't want to get involved. The compassion goes to understanding others. And the friendliness goes to, you know, those who are friendly to us. So when someone's friendly to you, you respond in kind. When someone is grumpy and, you know, you don't respond in kind, you have compassion. And I like to, as I mentioned, it's not just to other people, but to those aspects of ourselves.
Yeah.
When I'm already in that friendly state, great, be friendly with that. But when I have that, you know, mental dialogue or whatever that's grumpy or that's agitated, then I have compassion for when I am in that space. You know, when I'm feeling, you know, saintly or holy, or, you know, then, you know, be reverent to, like, I'm there, you know, cool. Or when I'm in that state that I'm almost being wicked and trying to get other people negative, and when I'm trying to, like, almost spiral my negativity deeper into the dark hole, don't get involved in that. Don't weave yourself in that web. Steer out.
And you can control it. That's the thing, is no matter what, you can control what happens in your side of yourself, even though it feels like it's out of control.
Yeah.
Through the practice, it gives you those tools.
And you breathe, exactly. You have the tools to make a conscious choice in any moment, whether it's regarding my own craziness.
And it's choice.
Or
you have the choice to explode or the choice not to.
Yeah.
It becomes a choice, not so much a reaction.
Yes, exactly. We say it's a response. It becomes a conscious response as opposed to reaction. Reaction is uncontrolled. It's knee-jerk, you know. And very often it's the eye for an eye mentality. Yep. Whereas a conscious response is like, what's gonna serve the highest good of this situation? You know, and very often it's gonna serve your highest good. Ultimately, if it's serving the highest good of the situation, it's gonna serve your highest good. But the ego might say that's too big of a sacrifice because I want that last piece of pizza. You know what I mean? But you know, that's just the ego, which doesn't know that ultimately, you know, this serving the benefit of all is going to serve me ultimately too.
Yeah.
So in a way, you know, you making that clear conscious choice is actually going to be the most selfish choice.
Yeah.
But you don't look at it
that way.
It
doesn't go that way because that's
just going to be a natural, you know, repercussion of that choice. That's going to ultimately benefit you too, but but
you got to make that choice.
Yeah, you got to make that choice, and that's not always the easiest thing to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is it gives you those tools to control yourself, control your mind. I mean, that's the further along I got, the further in meditation. I mean, you people say you should meditate, but a lot of guys have a hard time sitting and slowing.
I have a hard time with meditation. I don't know anyone who doesn't have a hard time with meditation. I'm just put that out there. I've worked with teachers for years, and I don't have anyone that's ever said, "Oh, meditation, it's easy."
No, it's not. Because
That is it's one of the hardest things to sit down to make yourself do it.
Yeah.
To make yourself do it is hard. To just be like, okay, I'm going to sit and be still. And meditation can be practiced laying down. The problem, of course, is if you have a propensity to maybe fall asleep.
Yeah.
You want to still be conscious and alert when you're meditating and pay attention. But meditation is so valuable, and we've talked a little bit about science. Science is really backing up meditation these days with studies, having control groups that don't meditate every day and control groups that do meditate every day, and then putting them in situations. And the ones that meditate, they have sensors on them, and they can tell that their brains are starting to function better.
Yep.
They're releasing the endorphins that lead to happiness, as opposed to the endorphins, that lead to, and trigger other responses, and so
it's almost like I was tired today at work, and we had a little lull right there, and I was able to just kind of shut down for a minute, and it was almost like C-3PO. You need me? I'm gonna shut down.
Shut down.
Just and I was thinking about that while I was shut down. I was kind of thinking, my body was done. My eyes were closed. I'm kind of thinking, I wonder what C-3PO was thinking when he shut down. It was probably nothing, and he probably doesn't remember any of that time there. But he just wakes up and he's everything's refreshed. He's recharged from that shutdown.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is.
It's kind of a
In a
I
sense,
can see that.
yeah.
I can see that's kind of a conscious shutdown. Like
But you're not
going to tune out a little bit,
But
all
it's
the
not
external,
shutting down,
and tune in to myself, and that is just so valuable. I mean, how many of us have gone days, weeks, years, lifetime of not tuning into ourselves?
Yeah.
And that's where we have problems. That's where we're running into big problems. And it's great if what you do in the world is serving others, but if you're not tuning into yourself, you have to be able to serve yourself in order to really truthfully be able to serve others without having kind of a grudge.
Yep.
And then your actions start to manifest in a different way. And that's the beauty of meditation. And I'm just gonna speak for my own. I love being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I struggle with meditation and keeping it as a consistent part of my practice. Being a little bit younger, it's starting to take root, but approaching yoga from young, I got into yoga when I was 20, and part of it was the physical nature of it that really entertained me. And, the exercise and the benefits of that were so valuable. And so that has really taken root in my life. And, I know the benefit of moving my body and breathing, and it's just so valuable. In meditation, I know the benefit, but it's so hard for me to get on my cushion and just say, okay, I'm going to sit. So I generally do use a timer when I do it. And honestly, the best time for me to do it is after I do a yoga practice.
Yeah,
it works
exactly.
better for me when I do about a 60-minute practice at home and then set a timer for about 10 minutes on my cushion. I'm good to go.
Because really, when it comes down to it, the yoga practice is to get your body ready for sitting.
The first yoga pose was lotus pose. And the poses themselves in Sanskrit are called asana, which means seat. And it was just about pose. It was just about meditation.
Yeah.
And you want to find a seat that is supportive and comfortable and allows you to be still. The problem is, as I talked about, our bodies, they start to get imbalanced and they start to have injury and deteriorate, and then it's not easy to sit still. Yeah. And particularly in lotus pose, which requires open hips and a strong core and a stable back. And so you don't have to be able to sit in lotus to do meditation, obviously. You can sit in a chair and do it. You can lay down and do it, but you just need to be in an alert posture. And the yoga poses are to help let the body be calm and less talkative, so that you can sit and be clear and not have this constant noise. If you never tried meditation, just sit on a meditation cushion for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, and you'll be like, oh my God, my body's in so much pain. I got this right in between my shoulder blade. It's amazing. Like, you had no idea. Like, your body just sitting is in pain.
And from raw, not warming up, not doing a practice, not stretching out or anything like that. Just sitting.
So after you do that practice, the body is calm.
Subtle.
It's also been strengthened. Mm-hmm. The energy in the body has been cleared, and now you can sit and be there and not be like antsy. So that works best for me. Now, granted, that's a certain allotment of time that I know is not easy for everyone. Yeah. And the other recommendation for meditation is do it first thing. That's difficult for me and my body because my body's way too getting out of bed.
And me, I'm way too awake, and my body's way too energized.
See, and I'm sleepy, so
it wants to move to get me to that subtle state.
So maybe just a little bit of stretches. But the one benefit of doing meditation first thing is, you're putting, I don't want to say you're checking it off your to-do list, but you're getting it done, as opposed to, oh, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do it later. How often do we say something like that in terms to something that's going to be healthy for us, and then it never happens?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So in order to, and it's really important, as we talked about earlier with yoga, to make it a very consistent practice. And one of the easiest ways to do it is start a routine, start a ritual, and it's easy to do it first thing. Like, that's my first thing, and then I get into the rest of my day.
Because it's so easy to get away from it.
It's so easy to get away from it. So what I recommend is, like Kevin says, maybe a few stretches that you learn, and then sitting in meditation. That can be a great way to start your day. And we're talking 15 minutes. You can do that.
Yeah.
And
I do 6 minutes of meditation. I do 10 if I have enough time, but minimum of 6.
But with a few poses.
20 minutes of poses
exactly.
before, and then I have a 6 minute.
So
I have a timer.
You can even do 10 minutes of just some gentle stretching, and then 5 minutes. That'd be a great way to start for newbies. And I come back to that thing that the kid said is, man, I can get the same amount of stuff done and feel better doing it. That's it in a nutshell. That would be so valuable. And I admit, I'm not the best at doing it. For me, usually I need my longer practice, and my days fluctuate because of my weird schedule as a yoga teacher. Sometimes I teach in the morning, sometimes I teach in the evening. So for me, I kind of put it where it needs to go that day. But for many people who have maybe a more set routine in their lives, first thing in the morning is going to be really, really valuable for you. But it doesn't mean that it has to go there. It can go in other places.
Yep.
But very often, as we, it's different working with the body too, in terms of just, yoga and the poses. When we first wake up, we're generally stiffer.
Yeah.
But we're more clear, like you said. We're a little bit more alive and more clear, whereas the day starts to pile up on us.
And it's that feeling of piling up on you, too.
Yeah, exactly. So later in the day, we're a little bit more fatigued. Physically, we're more open. We've been moving, doing whatever throughout the day. So if I do a yoga practice at 5 p.m., physically my body might feel like it's kind of at its best, part of the day, as opposed to early morning when I'm stiff because I've been, sleeped and curled up. But the energetic of it is now I'm a little bit more tired. I could easily talk myself out of it because I'm a little bit, I've had all the activities of the day. And so when it comes to meditation too, if I'm like, I'm going to do it later, I'm going to do it, right before I go to bed. And some people do that. I worked with a student who had terrible insomnia for years and years and years. I mean, her whole life practically. And through meditation, she has absolutely cured that.
Yeah.
And I use the word cure because she has. She's told me, she's been a beautiful testimony coming to our studio. She has cured her insomnia. She's like, she first was just excited to tell me that she slept for 2 uninterrupted hours. That was a big deal for her.
Yeah.
And now she is sleeping like 8 hours through the night, which hasn't happened to her for like practically her whole life. And she says she meditates every night before she goes to bed. And she's coming to yoga, a couple times a week. And so it can make a huge impact. And so definitely keep that meditation component. That's part of yoga, and that's why every class I teach, I'm ending with about 1 minute to 2 minutes of meditation, just to sit and get still. And people love it. Yeah. We're active throughout the day. We're always doing something, even if it's just checking our phone. And we're occupying our mind.
And the class gives you that time to do it.
The class gives you that time to do it. Plus, I'm doing it at the end of the class, so you've worked the body, you've worked up that tension that you needed to burn off, and now your body is ready to be still for a few moments.
And there's the thing in yoga called the monkey mind, and it's a real apt description of what your mind is going through during is settling that down is what yoga does and what meditation does. And for me, it's gone through many different variations where it was a wild thing in there, and I try to calm it down. And most people think that you're shutting off thoughts. Well, you can't shut off your thoughts. It's a stream that's coming, and you can't dam up a stream without vents. You can't let some valve releases. So you have to have that stream is going to come no matter what. And what the meditation does is give you a way to slow it down, to not deal with it. Like
create a little bit of space.
A little bit of space, a little bit of quiet time. One of my teachers was like, you have these thoughts coming, let them come, but the space in between the thoughts is silence. Try to stay in there for a little bit longer. Exactly. There's always that time, there's that space in between. For me, it was like, I remember as a kid playing a war, I dug foxholes, and you get in the foxhole and it's quiet in there. And I imagine that, I was like, it's all the out here in the world, and here's all thoughts. Well, whoa, it's quiet in here for a second. And then I get up and, oh, here it is again. Here comes those thoughts up, and I just get in there again. And then that's where this tattoo is the stream of thoughts. Yeah, this is it. I got this here. My teacher was telling me, it's a Savasana, or meditation tool. Again, we're in Savasana. She goes, the thoughts are coming in. Let them go through like you're at a revolving door, and the thoughts are just coming in, and you let them come, and you pass them right through. And for me, I took it into a water equivalent, right? So it's a water wheel. The thoughts are coming in, and I'm right here in the middle in Savasana. I'm in my meditation, and it's getting compartmentalized in an open container. So I'm not closing it off. It's just there. It's just happening. It's splashing all around, and I just let it go downstream.
Let it flow.
Yeah, and through that symbolism in my head to kind of focus on, but kind of let that happen, I've been able to control the stream of thoughts. I've been able to control the speed and the frequency, and that's helped me slow it all down. Now it's playtime in meditation.
Yeah.
Now I go there to see what's happening. I'm go there to see what my mind is on, to see, and it's not shutting nothing down. It's active. I mean, I'm having like visions, not visions, but imaginary visions. I had these visions about paths, of being on the right paths, and it was like this playful thing that I just imagined in this meditation, but it was clear as shit. Yeah. And I was able to come out of it and talk about it.
There's many different styles of meditation, just like there are many different styles of yoga. So some can be more of that like visionary or guided visual style of meditation, and others can be just working with the mind. And a simple technique is to just focus on your breath. Mm-hmm. And in particular, just watch the exhales, because it's difficult. If you just say, all right, I'm just going to watch 5 breaths. You'd be surprised after 1 breath or 2 breaths maybe or 3. The mind is already scattered somewhere.
And that's where I start.
Yeah.
If my breath sits me right there, and it's new every breath, and it's a new time to reset back to the breath.
And so when the mind is going to come, and it's going to come in, and it's going to do its crazy, and then what you do when the awareness finally comes back a little bit, then you say, okay, that was a thought, let those go, and now breathe. So that's that idea of letting those thoughts flow through. You try not to attach to them. You're trying to open up those spaces between thoughts. But the mind is like this. It's like a butterfly. When if it lands in your hand, as soon as you try and clasp it, it floats away.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have that open palm mentality of like, I'm working with the mind. I'm not mastering the mind or controlling the mind, but I'm learning. It is almost, I like the way you said you kind of play with it. You kind of are playing with it, and the mind loves to engage in that way. Yeah. And it's not used to us engaging in that way. Yeah, but we learn how much, wow, I have a lot of power and control right here. This is, you talked about the Matrix earlier, and this is the billion megabyte computer system.
Yeah.
Right here inside of every one of us, that is unlimited potential that, getting a little cliche here, can manifest your dreams. You set your mind to something and you put energy towards it, you will achieve it. And I've done that. My wife and I created our yoga studio. That was years in the making. And so sometimes we have a thought and we're like, yeah, I want that, and then we don't continue to put energy towards it. But if you just keep that thought there and you keep it, and so that's where it comes. Vision boards can be good, or messages on your mirror can be good.
Yep.
But you have to make those action steps. And so it's really, really powerful to work in that way, and that's where meditation can be so huge and so valuable in your life. Even not in that arena of like, wow, I have a ton of potential that I could utilize, as opposed to just let flow, harness that energy, or just for calming yourself.
Yeah.
The meditations I talked about is a way of the brain is firing, the brain is firing, the brain is firing, and we can have it fire in a very healthy, methodical way, or we can have it just be kind of scattered, as you talked about, in the monkey mind, which is what it will do if we just let it.
Yeah, you can let your mind run, and it'll run all over your skull.
It will run. It will keep on running. It's like the
Make all this noise and bouncing around in there, and you can't.
It's like the Energizer Bunny. It just
and you can't focus when that happening. You can't focus on your whatever you're doing right now.
Yep.
If all this shit's happening, and I tell you, man, now I know, I can tell when people are not in the moment.
Yeah,
I'm looking at somebody and I'll have a conversation. Holy shit, dude! It's and all of a sudden they're like, it's almost ADD-ish, but it's like you're not even here while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
because your mind's got 15 things going on, and it's not even like your fault.
Yeah.
This person just hasn't gotten any kind of control over it, and it's like, wow.
And I'm there too sometimes.
Yeah, all of us. Oh shit! Yeah.
I got a phone call yesterday, and it was kind of a business call, but I wasn't expecting it, and I was doing something else. So for the first 2 minutes of the phone call, I was like mentally transitioning. I kind of sense on the other end that they were like, "Is this guy with it?" You know, because my mind was still here, wanted to be here. You know what I mean? But finally, I was like, okay, energy. Finally, it took 2 minutes for it to finally shift, so I was fully there and engaged in that conversation, because that's how we live. I mean, one of the most valuable things you can do in your life is be present with the people that you are actually physically present with. And how often do you see people on their phones, you know, or even if they're not on their phone, they're not there. They're not tuned in, and they're not present with the people that are there. And you
can tell in conversation, if you have a group of buddies that hanging out and you're snap, fast, quick conversations, if you got somebody who's not that fast and they're, I'm just not that fast, you know, because you're not right here.
Yeah, because they're thinking about something in their head.
And that's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Is the moment is right now, and if you're not on it, you're outside of it, and it's really it's more important to be right here, because whatever's going on in your mind doesn't have anything to do with right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right now. Yeah,
the gift of our lives is right now, is the present moment.
Yeah.
You know, present moment, perfect moment.
You can dwell on it, and you can go further on it. You dwell on stuff.
You can learn from the past, and you can reflect, and there's value to that, but you don't dwell. You don't stay there.
Yeah.
You know, and you can also pertain to the future, but those are things that haven't happened. And so many of us are living in that, like thinking our problems. I mean, I'm guilty. Like, sometimes I'm like stressed about a problem that has not even happened.
Hasn't even started yet.
Yes. You know, I'm like, wow, why am I even trying to create that? Let me just be right here with what's going on.
Yep. It's as simple as that.
It is as simple as that. It is, and it really is that simple. But the problem is that we haven't allowed ourselves to kind of almost. Meditation is like mental training. We haven't done any mental training that keeps us tuned in. And so this technique that we're talking about of just, okay, let the thoughts then move. When I notice that I'm thinking about random stuff, okay, label that thought and let it move out.
Don't get mad at yourself about it.
Don't judge it.
Yeah.
And then breathe. And then you start to slowly expand the space between thoughts a little bit. And that's what I was talking about, the space between thoughts. And then you're just that much more tuned in. And then, of course, yes, there's going to be a thought again. But then you notice, okay, when I first got into this, my thoughts were like, if this were maybe a pie chart, were taking up 90%, and there was 10% space. But gradually what happens is we start to increase that space between thoughts. That pie chart's now we got like a quarter, you know, and 75% thoughts. But now the amount of time spent thinking, we're starting to shrink that down too. So now that quarter has grown to half. So I've got more space between thoughts. The thoughts themselves are not tangenting and snowballing and being longer and longer. Those are getting more condensed, and there's just more space, more space. This is the training for your mind, and this is what allows you to be present and in the moment, and then your life, that's joy. We talked about there's transient nature, our life is always changing. So it's learning to be okay and adapt to the changes. That's the ability to be present. Okay, now this is a new moment. Now what I'm doing here, okay, I'm going to check into it. I'm going to be present with this. It's really unique. I mean, I'm by no way a master of this.
Neither am I.
But it's something that I'm developing towards. And when I am in that, you know, you can call it the zone, you can call it what you will. When you are in that space, you're flowing. I call it flow.
Dude,
I call it entering a state of flow.
You were going there because it is.
You get into a flow with your life. I think of it too, like Harry Potter. He drinks that one elixir, and he's trusting. He's like, I'm gonna go over here, even though like Hermione and Ron, I know I'm using the Harry Potter characters, like, no, don't do that area, you need to do this over here. He's like, no, I'm going to go this, I'm going to do this. And he trusts it, and his life just starts to flow. And because he went over here, he ended up learning the thing that he needed to learn, which they thought was going to be over there. You just start to be able to adapt to the moment, like, okay, I'm going to go with this, and then I'm going to go with that. It's flow, and flow is beautiful.
Being able to adapt to a moment is directly related to fishing.
Yes. Things constantly changing. You have to be adaptable.
Yeah, the condition is going to change. What the bite is going to be is going to change. How your presentation is going to change. If you throw the artificials,
the wind might change on you all of a sudden.
So adaptation. If you can't adapt to what's going on around you, well, first you got to be able to adapt to what's going on with you. then you can adapt to what's going on around
If you haven't
around
learned it
you.
already, life is dynamic, and any activity you do is going to be dynamic. So it's so important to be able to, notice that this is not just like some confined laboratory. You know what I mean? But that's what yoga kind of does. Yoga takes out, usually we go into some kind of quiet room, and there might be some yoga music or there might not, whatever. And, but there's always going to be things. My yoga studio is off of a pretty busy street. And I kind of love that.
Dude.
Because it's busy and there's life going on and it's stuff happening. But we're, at the same time, we're getting centered. We are checking in. And there's always going to be the adaptability, and there's going to be the stuff that happens that irritates you, like a loud siren going by. But if I allow that to then piss me off,
Because it's only going to last us.
it's going to change. It's going to go by. It's not going to stay there. It's not going to park and be like, that's what I'm talking about. Life is dynamic, and there's going to be the sirens, and there's going to be the noise, and there's going to be the all of a sudden changing, like, oh, I had that hooked and I lost it, you know what I mean? And I can beat myself up over that, or I can move on. I can learn from it, and I can move on. And it's just about being able to adapt to that situation.
The less pissed I get on the water, the better day I'm fucking having. And the better I'm going to be at catching the fish that's going to come up in front of me. If I lose a fish and I'm going to be mad at that fish, I'm not going to catch the next one. Because I'm fucking pissed off that I lost another one. And not on the moment because I'm still mad at myself about the last one.
Yeah, you're living in the past.
I mean, look at the one I just did, a video I did this winter. I filmed it in the fall, and I lost 4 fish in a row. I mean, just rubber hooks. I call it rubber hooks don't work. It's 4 fish in a row, and I totally, when I was editing it, I said, yeah, my new calm isn't good for video. Because I'm calm. It's like, oh, damn. I'm like irritated, but it doesn't kill me. I'm not smearing my rod. Fuck! I've done that. We've done that.
We all have those moments.
So without doing that, I'm able to keep on fishing, and I'm out 4 in a row. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just at that. I'm that type of mad. I'm not like, I'm kind of like comical mad rather than being actual mad, and it makes my day a lot better. And it makes me able to catch a fish later on, because otherwise wouldn't have been able to.
Mm-hmm. Yesterday I was laying down to take a nap, and I don't get too many opportunities. And apparently the universe, in some weird twist of irony, decided that was the perfect time to send a work crew out to use a chainsaw on my neighbor's tree right across from my bedroom window. And I mean, of course I'm a little bit bummed, but, I can't hold on to that. What can I do about it? So, you learn to let go of the things that you can't control, and then, what you can control is yourself and your reaction to situations, and, you learn to, you strive for, you wanted to catch that fish, you know what I mean? So you strive for that without being attached to the outcome, basically, When you're attached to an outcome, or you have an expectation, that sets you up for suffering, basically. It's a recipe for suffering, and it's your own mental suffering, it's your own creation, of this stressed out or struggle. When if you allow yourself to be open, then you see what comes.
It's almost like the thing on, we're going fishing, I'm going to catch him today, I'm going to whack him today. You don't whack him today, fuck. It feels bad, but if I go into it, I have a good shot at him today. I do or not. Yeah, I mean, we went tog fishing, dude. I went tog fishing this past week, this past weekend. The water's 55 degrees. That is the temperature. These things hang in the rocks, right, all winter long. 55 degrees is like summertime for them. They're out on their front porch, like they're everywhere, right? I should be dropping them down and wham, hooking them up. I didn't get a bite. I didn't get a sniff on my bait. I didn't get anything. And for me, I was just like, it's unreal, right? But for me, it was just like, they just were off. They were just off. I went into the expectation kind of like, really, I went into it like I'm gonna catch a lot, because I took way more bait than I used, and I ended up letting them all go, but it was that thing where it was, I really thought I was gonna get on them, but when it started not to happen, it didn't piss me off. I just changed my day, and I went paddling.
Exactly. Go with the flow.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you can't be prepared. You want to be prepared for your activity. Preparation is different than not being attached to the outcome.
Yes.
We prepare. If I don't prepare for going on some sort of adventure or excursion, I'm going to end up cold, hypothermic, you know what I mean? So I'm prepared, but I'm also adaptable to the fact that weather might change my plans. Those things that are outside of my control, I learn to not get pissed at the weather I learned to adjust.
And being prepared in a physical sense with what you're doing, but also being mentally prepared is the biggest part.
And that's where it comes into just being like training your mind to be in the present moment. Mm-hmm. You mentally prepare. You can also do visualization. I used to, as a competitive athlete, used to use that to my advantage all the time. Of like,
I
visualizing myself, winning the catching, catching the winning.
I visualize
score,
my fights. I visualize doubles that I get. That's why I'm so good at catching 2 fish at a time, because I've been through it before it happens.
Careful if you play me in backgammon, because I have a knack for rolling doubles at the very end of the game, and I guess it's because of visual preparation. So, I mean, there's, and that's one thing that can be tied into yoga or not, but you can definitely mentally prepare, and part of that though is it comes back to that again, adaptability. But you're already there. It's like being so tuned in the present moment that it's like I already knew what was going to happen. Like I've already seen this before. Like I've already almost lived this moment because I'm just training myself to be in the present moment because I am here.
Yep.
I'm totally here, and I don't know. It's cool.
Yeah. And we're gonna wrap it up. We've been on for almost 2 hours.
Have we? Holy moly! It's been real, man. It's been fun. Do you guys want to hear anything about this? I brought this up here. You might have been wondering what it is. This is Shiva Nataraj. And for those of you that wonder sometimes, is yoga a religion? No, yoga is not a religion. It did grow up alongside Hinduism, and some of the Hindu deities, just their symbolism is what I find really, really remarkable and applicable to us in modern times. And so I'll leave you with a little story about Shiva here. He's the lord of the dance. That's why he's depicted in this dancing, if you can see that good, I'm not sure how clear it is up on the camera. He's in this kind of dancing pose.
Yeah, put it right in front of your shirt.
Oh, put it right up here?
There you go, yeah.
Okay.
You can see it. Or you bring it out so we can see how it's, yeah.
There we go. All right. So, in one story, there's all these yogis in a forest, and they're doing their yoga practices. And it's cool. Ritual is definitely important, cultivating ritual. But sometimes, ritual, when you're going through the motions, it just gets dry, and it doesn't actually have that passion. It doesn't have really the heart of what you're doing. When your heart's not in something,
I have ritual when I get on my mat.
Yeah.
I have
but your heart's there. You gotta when you're doing that, you're like putting yourself there. So anyway, these yogis, their heart wasn't really into it. They're just kind of going through the practices, and they were almost just doing it like to exploit the benefit of yoga for these higher powers they were able to get from it. Well, Shiva, you might like this guy. I resonate with Shiva because he's actually like the lord of death. And he covers himself in ash, and he has these big, wild dreadlocks. And he comes in there, and he's like almost, I'm going to modernize it, he's got this big boombox on his shoulder, and he's cranking that thing up, and it's loud, and it's crazy, and maybe it has cuss words, I don't know, it's whatever you rage to. And he's raging, and he's whipping his dreads, and it pisses these yogis off. They're trying to be all peaceful and do their stuff, and so they get pissed. And so they are like, all right, they come together, and they have powers because they've been doing yoga for a while. So what they do is they develop this snake, this huge serpent, and they launch it at Shiva, and they're like, sure, that thing's going to gulp him and just eat him up, you know what I mean? But what Shiva does is he expands his perspective, and he takes that snake, and he says, all right, I can use this energy coming at me. And he doesn't even deflect it. What he does is he takes it and he wraps it around. So that's him. He's got this snake wrapped around his leg and wrapped around his arm. And so then they're like, well, damn, that didn't work. So they're like, they build up this huge fire. And they're like, we're going to launch this huge fireball at him. It's like 20 times the size of Shiva, and it'll just burn him in flames and he'll go away. So they launch this huge fireball at him. And again, what he does is he takes it and he just like breaks it up and he puts it around him. So that's why he's dancing in this circle of fire. And that's all of us. We're all dancing in a circle of fire. This is representative of the fire of our life, which is constantly burning and blazing around us, and it's chaotic. And here we are in the midst of it, we find our center. So finally, they develop one more demon. They concoct this really, really terrible, evil demon that, again, is 1,000,000,000 times bigger than Shiva, and they launch it at him. Once again, Shiva expands, and he shrinks the demon down, and he steps on him. And that's what he's standing, that's what he's dancing on. And he cracks his back, he breaks his back. But the demon always has his head turned up, because this is the demon of our ego, of our selfishness that can stir up at any moment. So we have to stay on top of it. We have to stay on top of that demon, because at any moment it can rear its ugly head and take us back into ego, I want, and not be concerned about the greater good for all. And we lose our compassion, we lose our ability to be understanding. So anyway, I brought him in just for a little for that story that I wanted to share with you all. I love the symbology. I love, man, he's covered in ash and dancing with dreadlocks. Sometimes I want to do that. Sometimes I want to cover myself in ash and just be fucking crazy, you know, like, and just get wild because, hey man, we're free. We gotta get free however we can get free.
Be free.
If it's on kayaks, if it's on fishing, if it's on the yoga mat, you know, go for freedom. Go for freedom. Bring more freedom into your life. What are those things that make you feel positive? And don't be worried about those naysayers who think that it needs to be one way and only their way, because they're further from the truth than they think they are.
Really?
So,
Really?
you know, yoga is truth.
Yeah, it is.
But man, this is fun.
Definitely, man. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, man. It's been awesome.
Yep, cool.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for our sponsors, Yak Attack at yakattack.us and my DVDs at kayakkevin.com. And we'll see you next time. Later.